Aberration has just been released on Ark Survival Ascended. Since this is everyone's favorite rage-inducing map, I've decided to spend 100 days on this map while building a steampunk base, taming new creatures, and defeating Alpha Rockwell. And you guys already know that I did this back on Ark Survival Evolved, so how hard can this be? After wasting absolutely no time at all in the character creation screen, I spawned at the only politically correct spawn point being Portal, and then I started praying. Oh my god. I started praying because I still wasn't sure whether I could actually run this map on good FPS. But after the somewhat laggy intro sequence, I checked my FPS and saw that I was sitting at a solid 100, which was more than I expected. Oh, and I should also note that I was live streaming the first 10 days of this journey. Anyways, enough yap, time to get to work. Alright. Mission, get wood, get out of Portal. I need to get water. Aberration is hot as balls. After admiring the area for a little bit, I got to beating up a local tree for my first pieces of fungal wood. And while looking around for some stone I could pick up, I also stumbled upon this little guy. Bulldog. I'm taming you. I fed him an aquatic mushroom and then continued my search for a rock. I still do remember actually having this issue back on the old Aberration as well. While examining the ground everywhere around me, I ran into a pack of raptors, so I did a quick 180 and headed back towards my bulldog. I really don't want to get attacked this early on, and especially by raptors. Anyways, I fed the bulldog for a second time and continued spamming E everywhere in the hopes of picking up a random rock off the ground so I can make a pickaxe. And that is until I finally laid my eyes on one and unleashed my inner primal self. Rock! Please tell me yes! I'm definitely snagging that crystal over there too. But not before running back to the bulldog and feeding him to make him mine. Moving on, while crafting a pickaxe, my chat voted for a name. Chonker? Alright. Chonker seems to be the majority's pick. Now, with a bulldog and a pickaxe acquired, I had no reason to hang around the portal anymore as it was swarming with raptors here. Oh my god! After that close call, I legged it out of here while munching on aquatic mushrooms and picking up bushes. Running up the ramp, I came across my first Explorer note, which actually came in clutch. Oh, Explorer note, yes! That's what I'm talking about. As soon as I continued down the path, I arrived at the next area of Aberration. And looking up, it was already nighttime, meaning my day cycle was way too fast, so I quickly adjusted it before day 2. Alright, day 2, I'm back in, and I gotta get down somehow, hopefully in one piece to continue progressing. Is there water directly below me? I can definitely jump in the water and get down. The problem is, will I get eaten by piranhas? After looking at different spots I can jump down into and scanning the surrounding area for any possible threats, I decided to YOLO it off one of the sides. Screw it. You only live once. Oh my god. I survived. Okay, anything coming to eat me? I didn't get eaten by anything, thankfully. However, the same cannot be said about the stego that was fighting a pack of raptors. He didn't make it, unfortunately. Anyways, I ran the other way and actually came across a really good spot to start off at. Oh. Yo, this place actually looks super safe. I'm setting up camp here. There was just one smallest entrance to this place, and it had direct access to water. Basically, it checked all the boxes for a survivor like me. Step 1 was to enclose the entrance, of course, so I slowly made my way back out to chop down a tree while avoiding the raptors. And I smacked a rock at the entrance and got the necessary flint to make a hatchet before placing on the first foundation in the entrance. I then left Chonker back deeper into the structure type thing to keep him safe while I went out to get more wood. But one of the raptors noticed the dodo right in front of my camp and started eating it alive. So I rushed back, picked up Chonker, and got to safety where I then crafted another foundation and 2 walls. I then returned back to the entrance to place them down, but I was still doubting the safety of my hideout. Can one fit through there? I don't know. And there was an entire army of raptors right outside my camp. So with that being said, I also made a promise to you guys. Alright, I'm keeping Chonker alive this whole video, guys. Mark my words. I then unlocked the bow and arrow engrams and hoped that I could take out the pests waiting outside, but I forgot a major detail. I was still a broke, naked Bob, and I had no resources to make a bow and arrows. I can't afford them. Yeah, I literally just need thatch and wood. So I then looked around for my hideout and spotted some crystal, which I would need to make a spyglass, but first I had to figure out a way to get rid of those raptors. So I then looked to the other side of the camp, but I did not find anything of use. I just need 4 more pieces of wood to make a bow, so I got an idea. Hold up. If I demolish this foundation, it's not going to take out the wall. It gave me 3 wood. This is some Bob gameplay. When the raptors distanced themselves a little bit, I decided to send it and went out. I swam over to the small island in one piece where I got to chopping down the one tree that was standing there. I need 1 wood and then the rest thatch. And with the resources provided, I made the bow and exactly 37 arrows, which I don't think is enough to kill 4 raptors, but I guess there's really only one way to find out, so I swam back. Once back, I looked at the entrance to see that they actually backed off a bit into the woods, so I slowly inched my way forwards while gathering some necessary resources like stone, flint, wood, and thatch. That was a parasaur getting cooked. That parasaur actually helped me out a lot, as it leads the raptors far enough away from my camp to where I could explore more of the surrounding area. I actually kind of ran off a little, actually really far. But I didn't get far enough though, as the other side of the lake there were ravagers, which are arguably even worse than raptors. So with that in mind, I had no option but to hunt down and kill all the raptors in this area. So I headed towards where I'd last seen them, but then I actually couldn't find them anymore. Where are they? Hello? I'm guessing once they saw me, the absolute Chad with a primitive bow, they decided to peace out and leave the hood. Alright, this is my chance. The area is clear. It's time to farm up a little. The next resource that I would need to get my hands on was hide, so I made a few extra arrows and ventured inland to see if I could find something to kill. And while running through the forest, I got my first taste of the infamous aberration mushrooms. Oh, no! I forgot about those. Oh, dude, Vex are weird. After I was done tripping on the shrooms, I came across 2 stegos chilling near a river, which I felt much safer around, as they could easily take on any raptors or ravagers if we were to get attacked. And there, I also spotted my first bits of free hide in the form of a lystro. I'm sorry, little guy. And things were starting to take a turn for the better as an earthquake came along. Usually the earthquakes are just annoying side effects of aberration, but this one came in clutch by giving me exactly 2 crystal, which is enough to make a spyglass. And of course, I wasted no time in learning the engram and crafting one. I then looked into making bolos so I could take out raptors on my own. But the only thing I was missing was thatch, so I peeked out around to see if there were any raptors around before running out to smack a tree. No! After barely getting 1 hit on a tree, I got aggroed by a raptor, so I ran back to the stegos in hopes that the raptor would follow me and basically off itself. Where'd it go? I gotta take care of him, dude. This time I shot it with an arrow, but even then the raptor just didn't feel like chasing me all the way to my stego friends. I'm always like ready to finally fight them, and then they just run. But I guess one of the raptors heard me talking smack, but he did not let it slide. Right as I started fixing my pickaxe, a raptor ran up on me, and you can probably guess how that ended. While I'm crafting. Anyways, I spawned as close as I could, and... dude, I spawned right next to one. Welcome to Aberration, guys. That was death number 2, and it also marked the end of day 2. Respawning on day 3, I actually didn't get spawn killed, so I ran back to the stegos where my first corpse with all my gear was. I think the stegos must have killed the raptor, right? Yes! Thank you. That's what I wanted to happen, but I live. Whatever. Beggars can't be choosers, right? Anyways, at least the raptor was dead, and I had extra hide, which I then used to make a bola. Then I tried hitting a tree to get more thatch, but that even proved to be a challenge. Oh my god, I hit the- you walked into me while I was farming! Back to the respawn menu once again, and don't worry, it's definitely not for the last time, because as soon as I spawned back in and started running over towards my body, I ran straight into a pack of ravagers. Oh my god. But by some absolute miracle, I managed to juke them around a rock, which bought me enough time to actually run away and hide. And now that I was safe, I just had to make it back down to the water like before, right? I'm sure there's nothing that can go wrong at this point. There's water, so I won't take any fall damage, so... Bruh. No! I fell on the rock! Oh, this is such a bad start. Well, hey, at least Chonker is still alive, so I guess it's not as bad as it could be. Time to get my body back though, and this time, I'm locking in. I ran back to the waterfall where I saw a blue drop. However, there were many dangerous creatures lurking around every corner, such as a Carquinos. But eventually, I made my way back to the stegos while also being chased by a ravager. But it started a fight with a stego, which was my plan, so I waited for it to clap one of them before getting closer to look for my stuff. Oh, there it is. And with both of the ravagers dead, I made 3 more bolas and began harvesting river rocks in hopes of getting some metal so I could finally start progressing. It is day 3 after all. I need a parasaur is what I really need, but I need a safe place for it first. With a little bit of metal gathered, I started heading back to the camp where I came across a parasaur being chased by a raptor. So I avenged his fallen brother from before by bullying the raptor and clapping him. My first actual kill. And I also spotted a creature that I've never seen before. Dude, no, genuinely, what is that? Is that gonna attack me? I don't know what this thing is. Is this new? This wasn't on Aberration's thing. It's got a nest? Just in the nick of time, I made it back to the safety of my camp as there were 3 ravagers causing havoc right outside. But I still had to go out and gather more resources, specifically to make cooking pots for more levels as I need to unlock the smithy and foraging gram. Oh, and I also made a sleeping bag to avoid future spawn shenanigans. Anyway, my farming session soon came to an abrupt end when a pack of raptors literally spawned right in front of me. What was that? A pack of raptors just spawned. And the big chicken's nest got destroyed in front of me as well. Anyways, I ran back to my hideout to check on Chonker. Side note, you ever wonder what bulldogs actually think about? I mean, look at Chonker, he's just staring off into space panting. I wonder what's going on inside his little head. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's now free to play on PC and console so everybody can fight together. You can take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from the years ranging from the 1920s to today's fighter jets and tanks. The immersive details of War Thunder will throw you right into the heat of the battle with show-stopping graphics and eargasm sound effects. And these battles aren't little either. You can join a community of over 70 million players for epic battles and dive into breathtaking experiences that is War Thunder. So join the fight today and download War Thunder using my link in the description or pinned comment for PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. And if you've played War Thunder before and are looking to pick it back up, new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months will receive a massive bonus pack on all platforms. This pack contains the Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. And it's only going to be around for a little while longer, so download War Thunder today. I then made a second sleeping bag as well, which I placed inside of my hideout and named home. Moving on, I then ran out to get the last few pieces of wood, thatch, and stone to make some more cooking pots for XP. Alright, I'm gonna try and get all I need for like a smithy while I'm out here in the forge. I unlocked the smithy and forge engrams before also learning and crafting a storage box to keep some of my goods safe inside my hideout. Alright, box, we're gonna put the heavy stuff in here, and now I gotta go collect hides somehow. With that being said, I ventured outside and quickly came across a pack of ravagers, and they chased me right back inside of my hideout. But it was all going according to plan, as one of the ravagers got separated from the group, and I caught it lacking down by the river. So I bullied it and proceeded to pelt it with arrows into the face until it collapsed. And harvesting it gave me a very sad amount of hide, but progress is progress. Anyways, I dropped another tree and made a few more bolas before a trilobite made the fatal mistake of showing itself on my screen. Long story short, I was 53 chitin richer than I was 5 seconds ago. Next, I returned to the waterfall I died at before, as I remembered there were a few beings I could kill for hides, such as this parasaur. Yeah, there's a parasaur down there. This time, I made sure I looked where I was jumping and survived the fall, just to get my toes bitten off by a piranha. Anyways, seeing that there were 2 parasaurs and they both were kind of low levels, I killed one of them for hide. Please give me a lot of hide, so I don't have to kill your friend. But for the other parasaur, I made a club for it, and well, yeah, he just went to sleep. I don't know how that happened. I guess he was just tired or something. Anyhow, I started collecting berries from the nearby foliage, but I got spotted by a ravager, and that never ends well. That parasaur's dead. I tried spawning as close as possible, but instead this game decided to put me half a mile away from my body. You know, I thought I missed Aberration. I don't. And while running back to my stuff, I got harassed by a bee, and I found a sheep stuck inside a rock. And if I somehow managed to kill that later on, it would give me all the hide that I would need right now. So I quickly returned back to my body, but the ravagers were still around causing trouble. It'd be nice if a stego wandered over. But that never happened, so as soon as they got just a little further away from my body, I sent it. I grabbed all the stuff and quickly ran back behind another rock to hide. I have 78 hide, that's enough for a forge. What about a smithy? No. So I needed an extra bit of hide still, so I decided to stay here and look around, spyglassing the ravagers, and one of them turned out to be a level 10, which I could definitely kill. But his buddy was a level 40, and I couldn't really get a single one of them out like last time. So instead, I decided to sacrifice something a little bit easier to kill. Bulldog, sorry. Gotta happen, you're not Chonker. That only gave me a pathetic 7 hides, so I tried killing the already bloody doed, but I wasn't doing any damage to it, so I gave up on it. Oh, the ravagers are fighting the stego. This is my chance. Help the stego. Right? No, the stego's going to lose. So my last resort would be that sheep stuck inside of the rocks. Wall sheep, are you still here? Okay, it looks like wall sheep is not here, sadly. But then a blessing from the Ark gods just appeared right in front of me. Oh, dead Sarco. Holy clutch. What was even more clutch though was the metal hatchet waiting for me in its inventory. I have no idea what killed the Sarco, but it was a perfect boost that I needed at the moment. To celebrate this victory, on my way back to base, I put an end to a random Lystro's career and 1 bow shot. Oh my god. 2 bow shots. Dodo? And with that taken care of, I looked around into making a forge, for which I needed a little bit more wood. So I put my new hatchet to use and dropped 3 trees outside before returning and making the first forge. And while the metal cooked, I went outside to gather some more stone for a smithy as well. And once I had 5 metal ingots, I made and placed a smithy, and unlocked the metal tools engram and crafted a pickaxe. And I also wanted to make a crossbow, for which I needed 2 more levels, meaning more cooking pots. And while farming, I also unlocked and crafted a set of hide armor. And a few more cooking pots later, I leveled up and got the crossbow engram unlocked. Of course, I can't be seen wearing hide armor looking like some homeless guy, so I looked into getting some skins as well. I think I'm crafting all the skins. Oh, how's the drip looking? I kind of dig it. It definitely fits the aberration vibe. Once I was all dripped out, I could return to doing some more productive things like farming metal from river rocks nearby. And once I was almost encumbered, I returned back home to start smelting the metal. Speaking of, I also needed to make a campfire and cook some meat so I don't starve. So I think now I'm gonna try and set up some spike walls or something, make a little safe area, and I want to tame a parasaur and then eventually a really good ravager. For that, I would need a mortar and pestle to start producing narcotics. So I made one and placed it under the smithy. Sweet, I can fit it. I then made a crossbow and 2 trank arrows and gathered a little bit of wood for the campfire and started collecting berries and mushrooms for narcotics. And once I was satisfied with the amount of tranks I had, I unlocked the parasaur saddle and went out to farm a little bit of wood for it, but I got rudely interrupted by 2 ravagers. I need some— Dude, that scared me. I first bowled both of them to see their levels, and the first one was a 50, which I could potentially kill. However, the other one was a level 125, which I definitely can't kill. But I didn't even plan to kill it, as a level 125 would be a really good first tame. I really need to tame that 125. What are the odds I can get it into a trap? And I may not have the tranks to knock the Ravager out right now, but at least I can secure it in a trap somewhere near my hideout. And it would save me a lot of trouble down the line because I wouldn't have to look for high levels surrounded by other Ravagers. So I quickly shifted my plans from a parry to this guy. So I unlocked the stone structure engrams and began farming for the trap straight away. If I can just get it in the trap, I can just keep it until I can tame it. Now, if I remember correctly, a Ravager can fit in a simple 2x1 taming pen, meaning I only need to make 2 foundations and 6 walls, plus the ramp, of course. Now, 2 ramps. I have the trap made. Now, I don't think 2 of them are gonna fit in the trap at the same time. Anyways, I returned and spotted them again and constructed the trap close by. The plan was to get attention of both Ravagers, then bowl at the low level and run the 125 back into the trap, and that's exactly what I did. I got it! I need sealings. I gotta keep it in there. It did try jumping out of the trap, but it was too late, and I quickly made 2 thatch ceilings and sealed the top off. And then I farmed stones and replaced the ones just to be sure that it couldn't break out and, get out. Alright, with step 1 of taming a Ravager done, I decided to pick shrubs for berries in the area, as taming a parasaur and farming narcotics that way would have been an unnecessary side quest at this point. And my chat was kind enough to use doed eggs for me to find out that I needed exactly 27 trank arrows to knock out a level 125 Ravager. Returning back to base, I made 8 narcotics and then I fed Chonker, as I have yet to do that. And the rest of day 4 was spent outside picking bushes and mushrooms. And after a few minutes of me ranting to my chat while holding down E on my keyboard, I had more than enough trank arrows to put the Ravager to sleep. Okay, I'm back. Tame you. And while trinking it out, one of my viewers actually hit me with a really good question. Why no Kipper? I don't think there are otters on Aberration, right? There might not be regular otters. However, there are aberrant otters, as pointed out by chat. But for now, I had the duty to protect Chonker to the end of these 100 days. But if I do see a Kipper, I would definitely be taming him as well. Anyhow, the Ravager went to sleep, and seeing that his torpor was draining super slowly, I had time to go back and find an Ovis to kill for mutton. However, looking into its inventory— what? Oh my god, that is cursed. More importantly, the engram page. I noticed the Ravager saddle requires level 47, and I'm level 30. We're gonna go on a grand quest, I think. I need to tame this Ravager and then go get Explorer notes to get the level 47 for a saddle. I thought there were a few notes I missed back at Portal, so I started heading back towards it. Parno, oh god. I distanced myself far enough away to where it wouldn't aggro on me, and waited for it to start attacking something else and then ran to the other side. This is my chance. And I also found my first cluster of green crystals with raptors nearby, but they're not really a threat anymore. Anyways, I made it up to Portal, and it looked a lot different back then on ASE. I think I can make a parachute and get down, right? I have 1 hide, never mind. So I ran back to find something to kill for some quick hide, and this parasaur would be the perfect candidate. So I bulleted it and started shooting it until I hear a car now. Oh! Oh, that's his parasaur now. Instead, I tried killing a level 55 moss shops, but that plan was also foiled when an entire nation of bees started stinging me. Dude! Oh my god. I'm dead. I am dead. Dude, where did they come from? Even better was the fact that I couldn't spawn near my stuff. So I spawned back home right next to the Ravager, and it was a whole war zone out there as well. 3 raptors were bullying a roll rat, and once it died, I led one of the raptors over to a high level stego I saw earlier, but I also died in the process. Okay, it hit it at least. Spawning back in, I came over to cheer the stego on. Ooh, he is bloody. So are they. Attack, don't spin in circles like an idiot. Anyways, I grabbed my primitive hatchet from base and harvested the raptors' corpses before heading out to retrieve my items. And during my hike, I got a great suggestion from chat. Have you considered not dying? Okay, I see how it is. But more importantly, I actually found an ovis, which was great news because I could get all the mutton that I will need to tame the Ravagers and also a ton of hide. And from this point, I made sure to walk up to my body very slowly. 1, to conserve stamina, and 2, to stay vigilant and do as my viewers suggested, you know, not dying. Thankfully, I got to my gear in one piece and grabbed it all and ran for it. I'm gone. The Explore notes can wait for now though. I returned back to the ovis and bulleted just before another bee came over to say hi. No. But this time I didn't let history repeat itself, and I went straight for the queen bee. I jump shot at her noggin, which resulted in all the other smaller bees dying as well. And I also then dropped the ovis, got a ton of mutton and hide before heading back to base. Oh my god! I just hit a ledge. Even though I somehow missed the parachute jump thing back to my Ravager. You really gotta stay on your toes 24/7 when playing Aberration. Anyhow, I returned back to the Ravager and started farming wood to make doors for the trap just to keep it safe while it tames. But all of that was a waste as it literally tamed off of 1 mutton. Also, more raptors got dropped literally right in front of my base by some stegos, so I accepted my free hide and picked up the Ravager trap. Moving on, one of my viewers in chat suggested that I name the Ravager Pupper, so I did, because I like the name. Pupper, right. Pupper, stay on neutral. Please don't die. I will be so sad. Now for the saddle. I still needed 15 more engram levels, and I don't feel like crafting 500 cooking pots. So on day 6, I started looking for explore notes. Surface entrance near lake. Oh, I was just over there. I don't want to go back over there. Bad experience. Instead, I ventured across the river from the bridge I jumped down on day 2, where I came across the new creature again. What? Oh my god, that's the new thing. That's the new thing. A yeeling. Anyways, I soon came to the conclusion that running around aimlessly was not gonna get me anywhere with levels, so instead I decided to bite the bullet and resort to grinding out cooking pots. I did get slightly distracted when one of my viewers pointed out the fact that I was really close to an explorer note, so after drop shotting another giant queen bee, I started looking for it. Oh my god, there's one right here. And that sped up the cooking pot grind, so I got back to whacking rocks and trees, and after just a few cooking pots, I was up to level 47, meaning I could finally make the Ravager saddle. Yes. Okay. Ravager. And turns out I also didn't need any green gems or metal to make it. Instead, I had to get a little bit more hide, which I quickly found roaming around near my base in the form of a parasaur. I need like 1 parasaur. Ha. Perfect. And another parasaur decided to come and try and help his fallen brother, but I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to do. Hey. You're not even hitting me. More hide secured, and with that, I made the Ravager saddle, and I took Pupper out to kill things for experience levels. And boy, did I miss having a reliable mount to move around on. Another reason why I was craving this guy was so that I could go out and look for a better base spot, perhaps something closer to the blue zone, which has way more resources like metal. Moving on, I initially just set out to kill some things for levels, but that turned into me heading back to base to actually pick up everything and move right now. But once I was back, I saw 2 Ravagers were right in front of my door eating a doed. So I took the opportunity and munched them both down with Pupper for some quick XP. But fighting both of them with a pack bonus actually really got his health down pretty low, so I sat next to the healing plant for a little bit to get some HP back. Alright. It's a decent amount of healing. I then picked up all of my important things like the smithy, the forge, and the mortar and pestle. And of course, I didn't forget about Chonker. And with everything packed, I headed out. Oh, and speaking of packing, I also packed up a dodo, as I needed a little bit more hide for some bolas, which I then crafted and began the journey towards the blue zone. I continued into the forest where I eventually came across the river, which was filled with dangerous creatures, especially the Carquinos. Those could literally end my whole career in a heartbeat. Yeah, I'm not going down to the river. I might have to. Oh my god, yeah, I do have to. That's a basilisk. Another creature that could ruin my day in one spit. Anyhow, I arrived at the waterfall, so I checked my FPS. Alright, here's where I want to be. But I was quickly greeted by the occupants of this hood, being a pack of aberrant raptors and a Ravager. I want to get a glimpse of the blue zone, dude. These trees are in my— Whoa! And seeing how little damage I was dealing, I decided to dip, as there's no way I can take on all of them without losing Pupper. I did pull up to the wrong neighborhood. So for now, my only option was to stay here in the green zone. And while trying to get to the other side of the river, I came across a dead creature, so I accepted the kind donation of hide and continued my journey into day 7. The search for a base spot continued into day 7, but I soon found a decent looking spot that also wasn't very far away from the blue zone. Maybe I do set up on this side. It's honestly bigger. And I got to see some of the Yeeling's abilities. Dude, that thing is crazy. It's got aimbot. Anyways, I jumped off a Pupper and started whacking a rock to make space for my new base, and I then placed down the 2 stone foundations I had before I noticed a threat kinda close by. Oh my god. Parkinos right there. I then placed down a couple of walls and proceeded to farm off the back of Pupper, and I made 6 more foundations which I would then place down. This would serve as a literal garage for Pupper, as I didn't feel comfortable leaving him outside. He would almost certainly die if something like a Carkinos or a Yeeling would get a hold of him. Anyway, after placing a few walls and windows, I farmed up the gate and then placed it down. And being able to snap gates on the foundation was a really nice quality of life update from ASE as well. Honestly, I could just, I don't need it to be that tall there. I'll just place ceilings here. So I need 8 more walls and 6 ceilings. I then placed down the smithy, forge, campfire, and mortar and pestle before sealing off the windows and the door. After repairing my tools, I headed out again to farm the last few walls and ceilings. But on my way back, I found a Carkinos that was laid out next to a tree. So I accepted the humble gift and returned back to placing down walls and ceilings. Oh wait, I miscalculated the ceilings. I need 6. So back to the rock smacking duty, and with that I had a fully sealed off base. But it was kind of dark inside, so I looked into making one of those wall torches, but they require cementing paste to craft. So I used a little bit of chitin that I got off the Carkinos to make some paste, and I made 1 torch which was actually enough to light up my whole base. Now with a safe base secured near the blue zone, it was time to go on a little adventure for metal. So I grabbed Chonker to provide the light and headed out on Pupper. On day 8 I headed deeper into the blue zone, where I then found my first bits of actual metal. Surely this is a metal rock. Okay, yeah, the metal doesn't have any blue tint to it anymore. Makes it a bit harder to spot, which isn't good. Anyhow, since Ravagers decrease resource weight, I gathered as much metal as I could. Alright, I think that's enough metal for now after this rock right here. And with that secured, I started running back to base, but very quickly I got overwhelmed by a variety of things. I ran too close to a mushroom, which caused me to get freezing spores. And I was also being chased by quite a few things, including a Yeeling. And on top of all that, my torpor was rising very quickly, so I had to get the safety. But luckily, I knocked out just after getting inside my base and closing the gate. Oh my god, I made it. This is why we have an enclosed base. Yes! Oh, that was clutch. That was clutch. I almost did die while asleep, and I didn't have any beds in here yet, but luckily my health stopped dropping and my torpor started draining, so I woke up and petted Chonker and started cooking the metal. I also unlocked the bed engram, which I wanted to make ASAP, but I was missing a little bit of wood. Alright, something sounds like it's right outside my base. Oh my god! Something is in fact right outside of my base, so I had to wait around for a little bit. Like, how strong are the Yeelings? Like, can my Ravager kill it? But once the coast was clear, I got on a Pupper and smacked the tree before seeing that Master Uguay was under attack near me. I'll help you, turtle. Now, don't confuse this as an act of kindness towards the Carbos. I just hate wild Ravagers, meaning as soon as it died, I also ate the turtle. But I'm also gonna kill you, I'm sorry. And just like that, I made a bed before getting attacked by another attack helicopter. Oh my, I'm getting aerated, dude. Maybe I overestimated the Yeeling's aim, but I returned back home and anyway placed down the bed. Then I killed a Titanoboa slithering around in front of my house and got back to farming wood. But once I was coming back from that quick little farm session, I spotted another attack helicopter Yeeling just chilling on a tree, so I tried my luck and threw a bola at it. And that confirmed that they are in fact boloable, which is really good to know. I got it. Yeah, I'm killing you. Even though it was a low level, it took quite a few hits before dying, but at least it's gone now. Anyway, back at base, I crafted 2 more forges to speed up metal production. Then I distributed all the metal, and with all 3 forges actually cooking it, it was getting really hot inside my base. But you know, I wanted even hotter, so I also checked out the engram page to learn flak armor. It'll be hot, but it'll keep me protected. Moving on, to actually progress with taming bigger and better dinos, I will need a berry farmer, as farming berries by hand won't cut it anymore. The only thing I can fit in here though, and that would be easy to tame right now, is a parasaur. So I made a saddle for one, loaded up on tranks in my crossbow, and made a flak set. And I, of course, equipped my drip and then headed out. Oh, and I also killed a Sarco right outside and spotted a Paracer fighting a Spino. Here, I'll help you. This was the perfect opportunity for some free XP. I killed the Spino but aggroed a Megalo in the process, so of course I started running away. However, I ran into an entire army of Yeelings and they all started shooting at me. There's so many of them! And even more came over to help, but I got away somehow and resorted to killing raptors instead. That's because I didn't want them interfering with the taming process. I spotted this level 55 Parasaur, which would do just fine, so I boloed it and tranked it out. And then I also killed a couple more raptors, and Pupper's health was getting pretty low again. Anyways, I picked some nearby bushes for some quick Meho berries, which I then gave to the Parasaur, and soon he was mine. Alright, obviously I gotta name it Perry. Now, I had to escort Perry back to base without aggroing the little army of Yelings. I'm just gonna let you guys know now, I'm gonna have serious beef with these things very soon. Anyway, one of them actually got too close, so I boloed it and killed it, which brought over another one. And soon enough, I was also fighting a raptor and a turtle. But with the help of Perry, they all got sent to the afterlife, and I could farm some berries before the end of the day. As day 9 came about, I found an explorer note by accident, which actually gave Perry a few extra levels. Getting quite a lot of narcotics now, that's what I'm talking about. And with quite a bit of berries and mushrooms farmed, I actually planned on leaving Perry here, as getting him through all the Yelings seemed to be a near impossible task. So I found the semi-safest spot for Perry to chill in and ran right through the forest while avoiding all the combat. Yeah, no, Perry would not make it through here. Oh my god, it's a war zone. And once back at base, I started crafting over 100 narcotics, and while also farming more spoiled meat in my inventory. I then looked into making a preserving bin, but for that I needed some more wood, so I went out to try and get some, but got spotted by yet another Yeling almost instantly. Anyhow, I actually did manage to make the preserving bin, and the next tame on my list was gonna be a doed. You see, I wanted a doed because I want to get into expanding my base even more, specifically behemoth gates, so I can block out all the Yelings. And for all that, I'm obviously gonna need a good stone farmer, as farming a lot of stone by hand is gonna take far too long. So after my chat told me the right amount of tranks I would need for my doed, I headed out on Pupper to actually look for one. Oh dude, it's gonna suck to transport home, but I need one quite badly. You know what I really want? I want a bear. Okay, change of plans. A bear is super strong, super fast. They suck to tame though. So while getting pelted by a Yeling, I ran back inside to do some research. To tame a bear, I'm gonna need to make darts, meaning I would need to make more narcotics. So I headed out to visit our good friend Perry, who is thankfully still alive and right where I left him. Perry, I'm back. Sooner than I thought I'd be. Later on, while minding my business and farming berries, I saw another parasaur getting harassed by a Yeling, so I decided to try and help out. I'm about to hit this mid-air snipe. Okay, never mind. But instead of hitting the bird, I trapped the parasaur, so I returned back to farming. And once I had a decent amount of berries on me, I left Perry in his parking spot once again and headed back home. Stay safe, bro. And back home, a level 10 Yeling wanted to throw hands, or feathers, whatever. Anyway, I packed it up before getting inside and making a bunch of narcotics and unlocking the long neck Ingram along with trank darts. After making a rifle, I made a second mortar and pestle, in which I started producing spark powder and gunpowder. And soon enough, I was crafting bullets and then darts. But I did also want to craft a dire bear saddle before going out to actually tame one, so I farmed a little bit of stone, which I then turned into cementing paste using the chitin from earlier on, and that went just about how you'd expect. Oh my, of course, it's you. It's why wouldn't it be you? Since this one did not want to land, I got bullied right back inside on my base, where I crafted bullets to show these pests who's boss. So with 10 bullets made, I returned back outside to assert my dominance. Pull up, I dare you. Just the fact that I had my bolas with me was enough to scare these birds away apparently, as I did not run into them again. And on day 10, I had gathered enough stone to make all the cementing paste. But the other resources I was a little bit low on was hide, so I got on a pupper again to go out to see if there was any free donators. Oh, hey, just talking about you guys. I wanted to kill you. Then I remembered that there's probably a lot of titanium bows down towards the blue zone, so I headed over there, but instead I ran into a duo of Yelings. Okay, yeah. Oh my god, there's 2 of them. One of them was also a decent level, but I boloed it and clapped both of them and returned back home to craft the doed saddle as well. The plan was to tame a dire bear, but if I find any doed that's actually worth taming, I might as well do it then. So I started running back towards the starting area, as I've seen plenty of bears over there and it's probably safer all around. And on my way over, I of course took the time to kill any creatures that were weak enough to die to pupper. And soon enough, I spotted a few bears, but these were very low levels. Okay, it's mate boosted, but it's level 15. And I aggroed it by mistake, while my Ravager decided to poop. Anyhow, I also came across another one of these giant chicken looking things. Dude, that thing freaks me out. So the search continued throughout the forests and swamps, but it wasn't looking too promising. Not having much luck with these bears, dude. I haven't even been looking at the Dodicks. I've seen some, but I'm not leading a Dodic around while looking for a bear. I kept finding low levels. The highest I found so far was a level 35, which was far less than desirable. Oh, there's 2. 20 and a 30. Bro, like... And I managed to actually do a whole lap around the green zone without finding anything worth taming, and the journey ended as did day 10. Day 11 started off me looking into the steampunk structure skin. It only cost around 1 wood to make, so I crafted it and started applying it to literally everything. This is my first time ever using structure skins. But to reach the ceilings, I had to go outside and jump up to my roof. Not an issue with pupper, but I did get shot at by a Yeling. And you already know I hate these things now. And since this fella wanted the smoke, I delivered. And once he fell to the ground, I bullied him and started eating him alive. Was that Carkino see me? That Carcino sees me. I didn't mind though, as I could peacefully finish my roof while the giant crab went ham on the yeeling. Alright, it should all be finished. And it looked very cozy and steampunky, I guess. Anyhow, it was time to go out again and look for a dire bear and doed to tame. But before that, I farmed a little bit of wood to keep my forges cooking while I'm away. Alright, back out looking for a bear. After a bit of wandering around, I came across 2 more bears, one of which was a level 85, pretty decent but not exactly what I was looking for. But since it was the highest level I found so far, I made a waypoint on my map and continued searching. But then I came across this guy. 135 doed. I'll help you, bro. This guy's definitely not gonna survive, though. He's in a horrible location. Oh, yeah, he's cooked. But I did find another high-level doed, being a 130, so I marked the location with a waypoint for future use. And the rest of the search kinda just looks something like this. Level 5, bro. Level 50. 20. But I also found this one. A 90? And that was now the highest level I found, but again, it's not in the safest of areas. The search continued into day 12. I took a short stop to farm some crystal I found on the way as well. I'll farm some of this while I'm here. And after what felt like an eternity, I actually found a very decent level bear. Well, I gotta give credit where credit is due. I didn't really find the bear, instead this yeeling did. Yeeling. What's it attacking? A bear? Oh my god, it's a 125. Just what I was looking for this whole time. I got to farming up a trap right away. I gathered a bunch of stone and chopped down a few trees and mushrooms while also getting harassed by a yeeling. Oh my god. Oh! I quickly packed it up using 1 bola and I could get back to my farming. And soon enough, I had everything already crafted and ready. Okay, I've got the trap, finally. So I constructed the trap and got the bear's attention, but seems like the 2 ramps were not cutting it. Yep, should have made 2 more. So of course, I whacked down a few more trees and made 2 extra ramps and placed them down. Time for attempt number 2. Okay, let's try this again, Mr. Bear. Which didn't go exactly as planned. Can it not fit in there? So I tried one more time just to be sure, and this time the bear followed me right in and I started tranking it out. Not sure what was wrong with it before. Anyway, just before I ran out of the darts, the bear went to sleep, and I did remember seeing a sheep just up the hill from where I was, so I got on Pupper to go look for it. And I did spot another bear while I was running as well. Oh my god, there's a 135. Are we serious? So I then took out my anger on the Ovis, and I got the mud and returned back to feed Mr. Sleepy Bear. And while that tames, I also remembered seeing a decent level doed in the area. And it was actually right behind me, being a level 95, so I started knocking it out as well. On day 13, after a bit of shooting trank arrows, the doed was knocked out. This buddy is asleep. I'm to farm up the berries. And while peacefully picking bushes, my Ravagers got attacked by a raptor, so I dropped it along with his friend and Master Oogway. My bear also tamed in the meantime, so I ran over to pick up a trap and named the bear. I'm definitely just naming this thing Mr. Bear. Now, it didn't have a lot of health. My Ravager actually had more in fact, but it was putting out way better damage already. And also, it could farm berries, which was a nice added benefit. I then left Pupper to look over the doed while it tamed, and I went on a little adventure to find a charge node, as I'm pretty sure I can use charge nodes as an obelisk to upload the doed there and download it closer to my base. And I did check out the Aberration spawn map to see where I could try and find some charge nodes. However, after running to a supposed location, I didn't find anything. I think I've been clickbaited. But after running around a little bit more and peeking over a ledge from Portal, I actually spotted one. There's one down there. It's quite far though from the doed. Anyway, I did a pro gamer move and jumped right down onto the bridge from the portal, and then I dismounted right before hitting the ground to avoid any fall damage. And below the bridge, I jumped down on 2 Ravagers who were not too happy about my arrival. Oh my god. I'll take you all on. Easy, dude. Not even a concern. But then I faced another issue, a slightly more frustrating issue than the last. Oh no, I think my doed fell through the mesh. My doed definitely fell into the mesh. Not much I could have done about that, so I ran back to get Pupper, and once I was back, I immediately got attacked by yet another yeeling. So once it got close, I boloed it, and it was a level 115, so I hopped on the back of Mr. Bear and munched it, and now with that taken care of, I jumped off the cliff to where my doed was, and I waited for it to tame. And eventually it did, and I ran closer to the wall, but I couldn't quite get it out of it. There also was a fight going on right behind me, so I quickly took care of that. And I also found this little guy dangling from the rocks above. What the? It's a Cosmo. How you doing, little dude? Anyhow, back to the issue at hand with the doed. I could see it now through the wall, but it was still stuck on something and just couldn't walk out. So unfortunately, I had to use commands to get it out. Really stupid I gotta do this. But now, I had both the bear and doed tamed, so it was time to slowly head back to base. But first of all though, I had to find a healing flower as my bear was on critically low health. So I then carefully rolled around on my doed while avoiding combat until I was at the plant. And I then force fed the bear some meat to speed up the healing process as well. I also need to get the seeds from this plant,
because I'm pretty sure that there's a little, I don't want to say glitch, but the Cosmo spiders like actually eat them, and I'm pretty sure it instantly tames them. Not intended, but you know, it works.
That being said, on day 14, I began heading back to the Cosmo I found. But on my way over, I started beef with a local turtle to get some keratin because I wanted to see if that worked as a substitute for the chitin that Cosmos like. But while biting the turtle, I accidentally hit another Cosmo.
Oh no, I just hit it! That's a different one though.
And he had quite the courage as well.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
So I started looking for a different one instead. When I saw one, I jumped off my bear and started chasing it, but it was running away from me and I eventually lost it.
Where'd he go?
Turns out it actually ran back to my bear, but by the time I returned, it was gone again. So then I turned down my foliage quality to actually make them easier to see, and it actually returned, but not in a friendly manner.
Why are you still beefing with my bear?
Apparently, I need chitin as keratin won't work, so I ran down to the river to see if I could find any trilobites. But instead, I found stegos fighting a carcinos, so I waited for them to kill it and then harvested its corpse.
Yeah, so apparently they can just, you know, smell the chitin in your inventory.
Alright, back towards the Cosmo, I started looking for another one and I soon found it.
It's a Cosmo.
And I waited for it to light up and then I insta-tamed it with a plant Z seed I had.
Yes!
So if you didn't know, the way to tame these little fellas is to have chitin in your inventory as they like it for some reason. Anyway, when there's no danger around, the Cosmo will light up and it do a little dance thing notifying you that you can feed it. And while you're supposed to feed it chitin to tame it, you can actually give it a plant species Z seed and they will insta-tame. It's probably not an intended feature, but I'm gonna use it while I can before it probably gets patched. Anyway, the best part about him is that you can use him kinda like a grappling hook or Spider-Man. When you put him on your shoulder, you get an item in your inventory, and when you use that item, the Cosmo will appear on your hand and you can shoot webs out of his his butt. Anyway, then you can jump and swing and gain momentum.
Oh! Not enough ammo. Yeah, okay, so you definitely need a higher level just to be able to like actually get swinging.
Alright, once I was finally done with the Cosmo tomfoolery, I returned back to my tames to go look for a charge node. So I jumped down the waterfall and spotted a blue drop, above which were 2 Ravagers, and after I took care of those, I jumped down to the blue drop just to get disappointed.
What? You can't upload stuff from here? That's stupid. Whatever.
So I followed down the river while avoiding all the carcinoses, and soon I spotted a charge node, and after taking out a Carno and Ravager, I arrived and started uploading my tame.
Creatures. Upload the doed.
Then I moved everything from the Ravager into Mr. Bear, and I uploaded Pupper as well, as I was a little bit encumbered, so I dropped a few items before heading home. Once I was close enough, I downloaded both the doed and Pupper at another charge node and whistled for everything to follow me. And I arrived back home and started parking all my tames inside to keep them safe.
Now that I'm back at base, I want to start like making it safer, and for that I'm going to use behemoth gates as they're going to provide a big wall between the trees. Hence why me getting the doed.
But they wouldn't stay inside for long, as I put them to use right away. I started rolling around on my doed, smacking every rock in the area. But I didn't get to do this in peace, as I got harassed by yet another yearling while doing this. But even after just a few rocks, I had enough stone for the first behemoth gate, but I'm still gonna need more wood and thatch. And when I left to go outside again, the yearling got way too close for comfort, so I bullied it. And I then rushed back to get Mr. Bear, and I quickly put the annoying bird back in its place so I could finally return to farming in peace just before the end of the day. I did plan to continue farming for the behemoth gates, but I got interrupted by 2 yearlings that I quickly took care of, and then I had an idea for my next tame.
You know what I need to tame? I need to tame a roll rat for wood.
However, the saddle for the roll rat was pretty expensive on the metal department, and looking into my empty forges didn't help out at all. So I got on Pupper to farm a little bit of wood for them before going out on a metal run. I then distributed the wood into the forges and grabbed Chonker and then headed out into the blue zone.
I want to grab aquatic mushrooms just in case I get freezing spores.
So I quickly returned to get some, and I was right back on my way. The place was swarming with megalos, so I had to be extra careful while mining. And I came back to the same bridge looking thing as before and started harvesting away. I didn't get a ton of metal, but just enough to satisfy my current needs.
Alright, that should be enough metal for now.
So I returned back home where I was once again greeted by a yearling. I then put all the metal into the forges and started smelting it. And I also made 85 cementing paste required for the roll rat saddle with chitin that I had left over from a dead carcinos.
Yeah, that's the cementing paste. So now I just gotta wait on the metal. And in the meantime, I gotta get honey and actually, tame a roll rat.
The honey shouldn't be an issue considering I have Mr. Bear, so I jumped on his back and set out to look for a roll rat and a beehive.
So they pretty much just spawn everywhere all over the green zone.
After running around for a little bit, I actually did find a beehive on a redwood tree, but it was just high enough to where I couldn't reach it from the ground with Mr. Bear, so I had to farm up a few ramps to actually get the honey. But I first clapped this yearling that was harassing a doed, and then I farmed up a bunch of thatch and wood that was needed to make the pillars, ceilings, and thatch roof pieces, which are basically just cheaper ramps. I then placed down 3 pillars and put a ceiling up to it, and followed that by the thatch roofs. And after waving at the beehive, I swiped it and got a bunch of honey.
Let's go.
You're not gonna eat the honey, are you? And I left the ramp there just in case I would need more honey in the future, and then I started looking for a decent level roll rat. I didn't want a low level because I would need one that can carry all the wood when I'm going to farm with it. And while traveling around, I accidentally aggroed one of the big chickens again.
Oh my god, it's fast.
But it did not put up much of a fight. The search continued into day 16. I did find a few here and there, but they weren't any good levels though. But one of them did actually dig up some red gems, so you know, I gotta swipe those.
Is that a red gem? Ooh, hold up. They're gonna get mad when you snag their gems, but I need this. Only 5, whatever. You don't need the gems. Why are you mad?
I continued searching after the small heist, and shortly after saying this,
Not having a good time finding high levels on this map, man.
I actually found a 130.
Oh, 130.
So I dismounted to go feed the roll rat, but quickly got pulled up on by a local op.
Now, if you don't know how to tame a roll rat, you kind of just...
Oh! So I first killed any threats around me before proceeding with the tame. What I was trying to say is that if you didn't know how to tame a roll rat, you just kind of wait around for it to bury itself, then drop honey on top of it as I'm about to demonstrate.
Press that, and they eat it. Bang!
Then I waited for it to bury itself again and fed it for the second time, and since I saw raptors in the distance, I got on Mr. Bear and brought him closer. But shortly after I fed it for the third and fourth time, the roll rat was mine, and I named him Ball.
Ball.
Unfortunately, Ball was not the fastest of fellers, so I looked for a charge node nearby so I could upload him. And I soon found one, of course, because I am him.
Oh, there's a charge node right there. Okay.
Once Ball figured out how to do basic pathfinding, I uploaded him and headed back towards home, which was actually closer than I thought. And I found another charge node where I summoned the Great Ball again and continued the journey back home. But that actually turned out to be a little bit of a challenge, as I quickly got overwhelmed by the yearlings as usual.
I hate yinglings.
I bowled and clapped 2 of them as soon as I got the chance. But things started going downhill very quickly for Ball.
Oh my god, they're killing him. No! He's almost dead.
Almost was an understatement, however.
No!
And it did not end with Ball, sadly. One of the yearlings swooped down and dealing over 600 damage, killing Mr. Bear as well. So I tried grabbing all the honey and I ran for my life while getting pelted, but unfortunately I got clapped too.
Oh my god.
And to make the situation even worse, I got spawned in a completely random location, so I first committed respawn, then rushed back outside to save Chonker.
No, Chonker! Ah!
Just like that, I lost days worth of progress, and worst of all, Chonker was dead. My promise was broken, and there's nothing I can do about it now. But you know, I just gotta get back to it, so I got on Pupper at least to retrieve my gear. I then fixed my flak and rekitted, but going outside just to grab the bear saddle almost made me lose my mind.
Dude, you can't go outside the base. Dude! I just won my bear saddle! This is gonna be the end of Granty, dude.
After I killed these spawns of Satan, I found the bear's bag and grabbed everything. And then I went over to a healing plant to get Pupper healed, and I killed one more of the yearlings right next to my base. And after that, I went inside to craft gunpowder, bullets, and then turned those into darts so I could go tame the 135 bear I found after taming Mr. Bear. As you can probably tell, I really missed having a bear already, especially Mr. Bear. So I grabbed the taming trap and waited for more narcotics to turn into darts before heading out.
Alright, time to go tame another bear. Praying that 135 is still there.
Thankfully it was, but it was close to a pack of ravagers. So instead of fighting them all, I aggroed the bear and led it to a safer place, or what I thought would be a safer place.
Oh my god.
Not to worry, while these little pests are annoying and deadly in groups, they don't do much by themselves, so I ended its misery and then constructed the trap. But while leading the bear into the trap, another yearling came out of nowhere just to rub more salt in my wounds.
Where did you come from?
And it also completely dodged my bullet.
What?
Second time's a charm, and the yearling was sent back to meet its creator. Come to think of it, wouldn't Rockwell be considered as the creator of these annoying birds? If so, I would definitely enjoy killing him on day 100. Anyways, back to the bear. I tried to lead it in again, but for some reason, it just didn't want to get in, so I resorted to a different method of trapping instead.
Watch this, dude.
I picked up the ramps and walls and grabbed the bear's attention, and once it was inside the trap with me, I placed down the walls again, trapping the bear in.
Too easy.
And once I had the bear trapped, knocking out was a walk in the park. Then I got on Pupper and started looking for an Ovis to feed it, of course, but I did nearly get sent back to the respawn screen by a basilisk. But I found a sheep and got the mutton just before the end of the day. Day 18. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't know how or why, but all the footage I have for day 18 is that 4-second clip. The file size for day 18 is 9 gigabytes, which means it recorded correctly, but for some reason all my computer has to show for it is this 4-second clip. Anyway, from what I can gather from day 17 and 19 is that I finished taming the 135 bear on day 18, which I named Mr. Bear 2. Oh, and I also tamed another roll rat, which I named Sack. Day 19 began with me taking Sack out to farm wood for the long overdue behemoth gates that I would surround my base with to protect all my dinos, and me. So after clearing out an area of fungal trees, I parked Sack in my doorway and stored all the wood in the smithy. I then went on another farming run, but this time I took Mr. Bear 2 to get thatch.
These trees don't give anything. I'm gonna go repair my pickaxe so I can just go farm a bunch of thatch in one go.
And it's a good thing I turned back because Sack was getting attacked by a yeeling. So I parked Mr. Bear 2 inside my base and then got on Sack, and once the bird lost aggro, I hid Sack away behind my base, where hopefully these demon spawns won't find him. I then went inside to repair my pickaxe and headed back out the farm since Mr. Bear 2 did not actually get thatch. But while crossing the river, I got jumped by 2 Sarcos, but I quickly took care of them and got back to farming. But it wasn't long until another yeeling noticed me and started shooting at me, so I jumped on Mr. Bear and distanced myself a little bit. And when the yeeling came running after me, I one-tapped it and waved at it with Mr. Bear. Yes, I'm toxic like that. But the yeeling was not the only bozo who wanted the smoke though.
Yeah, come beef with me, dude.
And killing that Ravager aggroed over their entire bloodline.
How many Ravagers are there?
Once I was done with all of them, I could finally farm a little bit of thatch. And later on, coming back home, I made the 2 first behemoth gateways, and I went out to place them down just to get interrupted by an earthquake. So I took that time to kill any intruders that were near my land. Finally, I then placed down the gates, but there was a gap left between the second gate and a giant redwood tree. So anyways, back to farming, as those 2 gateways ate through most of my resources. The wood and stone weren't much of an issue as I had a roll rat and a doed, but it was mainly the thatch that was super annoying to farm. But once my pockets were full of thatch, I returned back home to craft another gateway. Also, I definitely did not kill any yeelings while running home. Anyways, I placed the 3rd gateway and got on my doed to restock my stone. And coming back to base after the farming run, one of the local Spinos picked a fight with Sack.
Mine was getting dogged on by Sack.
But the giant apex predator never stood a chance and Sack dropped it. And just before the end of the day, I deposited all the stone into the smithy and returned back outside to gather more wood with Sack. I crafted 2 more gates and placed them down before going out on another stone run on day 20. And I shortly followed that up by another thatch run, during which I also killed a paracer because it aggroed onto me while I was trying to help it kill Ravagers. And back home, I made a few bullets and crafted the final gateway. And once the earthquake ended, I placed it down and it was time to start making all the gates, you know, so they're not just like open gateways.
Alright, now I just need 6 actual gates.
Anyway, that meant back to thatch farming, which was not peaceful this time as I had 2 yeelings shooting at me while I chopped down trees. Day 21 and I'm still out and about farming thatch around the forests, the redwoods, and even the rivers of Aberration.
Alright, that should finally be enough thatch.
On my way back, I even found an explorer node for some free levels.
Oh, hey there.
Finally, back at base, I clapped 2 more yeelings before crafting and placing down 4 gates. I then went back out to get more stone, but an entire gang of yeelings came to stop me.
Just 3 of them.
I don't know what war crime I committed against them, but for some reason these yeelings just refused to leave me alone. Anyhow, I retreated back home and crafted 2 more gates, and turns out I made 1 more than I needed, so I demolished it for my resources back. Anyways, it was now time to fill a gap left in between the tree and the gates, so I made some stone foundations and walls. It was far from perfect, but I think it should work as a basic yeeling defense. Speaking of, one of them was really chilling on my gate from the outside.
Dude, you're on my gate!
I tried to place a foundation from the outside to see if I could fill in the gap completely, but it didn't really work, so instead I just placed a single wall. I then grabbed a little bit of wood with Sack and made some stone pillars, and when I returned back outside, the yeeling was on the gate again, but this time I didn't let it slide. I bolted it and fed it to Pupper. Then I used some questionable building techniques to try and cover up the gap as much as possible. Since the snapping is broken and I can't place the foundation in between this is gonna have to do for now.
Okay, I think I've made this about as safe as I can. I need about 1 more wall, but I finally feel somewhat safe around my base.
And the walls seemed to have worked very well. I got the aggro of a yeeling and ran back inside, and of course it tried getting in but couldn't. On day 22, it was time to continue progressing.
Alright, I want a fabricator and a shotgun.
I was basically missing everything for a fabricator, so I made cementing paste first and then got on my doedic to farm a little bit of stone for the spark powder. I was also missing oil, which I really didn't know how I could get right now, so I of course resorted to violence.
Alright, I'm pretty sure I gotta go kill trilobites for oil. This is quite poverty.
Thankfully, I remembered a location where a bunch of trilobites spawned back on ASC, so I headed over there.
Okay, on the old aberration, there were a ton of trilobites down here.
And I soon found a bunch, so I started the depopulation process, all in the name of progress, of course. But I honestly didn't have to kill too many to get the bare minimum amount of oil required to craft and fire up the fabricator, so I headed back home to craft it.
Fabricator.
My base wasn't the biggest of bases, but now I could keep my creatures outside so I can fit the fabricator in my base just fine.
What I really want is a shotgun. Deal with these yeelings a little bit. You know what I mean.
I then grabbed some of my oil and hide to make gas, and then I fired up the fabricator and made a shotgun. I also unlocked the holoscope engram, however, I didn't have enough resources quite yet to just make one. And turns out I was also running low on metal too.
Alright, I think I'm just gonna farm a bunch of metal here, like, honestly, probably as much as I can. Big farm.
It would be helpful to tame a Karkinos and an Enki, but then I remembered I need a different tame that was also essential for what I wanted to do.
Oh, wait, I forgot Chonker's dead. Oh, I've got to tame another light pet so I can go into the blue zone. Dang it.
Which wasn't much of an issue as bulldogs spawn everywhere, so I found the first one, which is a level 15, and tamed it first feed.
You're no Chonker, but you'll have to do. Unless you're better. You are indeed better. Goodbye.
I killed a Sarko to keep the level 85 bulldog safe, and then returned back to feed it and make it mine.
You're no Chonker, but I think I'll call you Chonklet.
As for the other bulldog, I made sure he was given a new home, a better place we could say. Anyways, I found some metal on the edge of the green zone, so I first pushed the Sarko off the edge and then farmed it. I also then went down into the blue zone, which was absolutely swarming with Titana bows, and I also aggroed a Megalo, so I returned back to base to deposit whatever metal that I had on me before jumping back down from my base.
Oh, there's a Pyromane. So those are here for some reason.
With my fingers crossed, I started farming metal, praying that something would take care of the Pyromane, and I farmed all the metal until my pickaxe broke just before the end of the day. So I headed back home on day 23, and I aggroed a Pyromane by accident, but I broke its ankles and I got it off my tail. And after avoiding certain death 3 times, I made it out of the blue zone into the safety of my compound. But one yearling managed to get inside though, so I had to boil it and feed it to Sack. Now with the metal distributed and my pickaxe repaired, it's time to get some flint. But I first got to clear the area of any nuisances such as the Scorpion and Sarko. And with a little bit of flint acquired, I returned to turn it into spark powder and then gunpowder. You see, I really wanted to make some shotgun shells so I could finally start hunting down these yearlings more effectively. So I started making a bunch of simple bullets, and in the meantime, I applied the steampunk structure skins to my outside gates and walls. Well, to the ones I could at least.
Placement out of it, bro. Screw you, man. Whatever.
Back to making ammo, I made some shotgun shells and loaded my boomstick. Then I went out with Sack just for a little bit of wood so I could repair my long neck rifle. And after that, I started crafting more narcotics because I think it was about time that I get myself a Megalosaurus. They're easily the most powerful creature on Aberration.
They're super strong, and you know, I feel way more confident having one or two. So I'm actually going to need an army of them for the boss fight.
And as you know, it's always better to start soon on the breeding. So I did some more chores like grabbing a bit of flint, making spark powder and gunpowder, and farming stone with my doed for the Megalosaurus trap, which I then also crafted. I then also made some rifle bullets, which I then turned into darts, and I used Mr. Bear to farm narcoberries. And lastly, just before the end of the day, I also unlocked and crafted a saddle for the Megalosaurus. And on day 24, I was prepared as one could be.
Time to start looking for a high level Megalosaurus. It's gonna be way easier said than done.
I did go on Pupper instead of Mr. Bear, as Pupper was way more agile and could jump, even though Mr. Bear was technically faster.
Oh wait, I forgot to get the saddle.
Anyhow, I grabbed it and then jumped down into the blue zone where I almost immediately got chased by a yearling, so I ran up some tree roots. These are actually a really good way of getting around the blue zone, as they lead to a bunch of different places and they're free of most dangerous things.
Honestly, dude, there's not many Megalosauruses.
Instead, I grabbed the attention of a rock drake. Oh! No! If you've ever been chased by a rock drake before, you should know how annoying it is to get away from them. These guys are fast and they can climb on any surface, meaning it's really difficult to get away from them.
I might be cooked here, chat.
But after a bit of running around aimlessly, I managed to juke the rock drake probably around one of the trees.
Did I get away? Oh my god, I think I got away. I don't know how. I think the rock drake got stuck in a tree or something.
So back to looking for high level megalos, and it was soon that I actually found a decent contender.
110. 110 definitely isn't bad.
But it also wasn't a boss fight breeder either. It would be a nice starting point though, so I kept it in mind and searched for another one. However, after looking around for a bit and not finding anything close to the 110, I decided to return back to it and tame it. I then constructed the trap, then placed down the slope roofs as ramps, and I was doubting whether they'd actually work, but I guess there's really only one way to find out. So I shot the Megalosaurus and ran into the trap where the Megalo soon followed.
I think I got it.
And now with the Megalo secured, I started shooting darts at it until it zoned out.
Okay, it's out.
I then fed it some prime meat I had in pupper and waited. While waiting on day 25, I went over to a healing plant to get some plant CCZ seeds. But when I returned to the Megalo, I was met with disappointment.
What? Why did it wake up?
I checked to see how fast the Megalo's torpor should drain, and if my calculations were correct, it should not have woken up yet. Well, there's not much I can do except knock it out again, so I got back to shooting it. But I did run out of long neck darts, so I resorted to using the crossbow, and thankfully it knocked out with trank arrows. And when it did, it even kept some of its taming progress before.
What? Why does it have taming effectiveness?
Anyway, I guess it glitched or something. So I stood around waiting for it to tame without leaving it this time, and it tamed before it even lost 10% of its torpor, meaning it should not have woken up before. Anyways.
Holy, dude, that thing has a ton of health, doesn't it? I swear that's a ton for how low level it is.
I can't complain though, so I named it its HP and melee stats and hopped on it to test it out. I was already dealing a lot more damage, and it wasn't even leveled or imprinted, or it really wasn't even a good level at all.
Dude, it feels so nice to finally be on something super strong.
I also got to fight a high level yeeling. I bit it a few times before it took off to the sky, thinking it was safe, so I then pulled out my boomstick and showed what America's democracy really feels like. Moving on my way back home, I killed 2 more yeelings, and I also managed to get quite a bit of hide.
Alright, well now that I've got this Megalo and I can, pretty much traverse the whole blue zone with relative safety and ease, I want to get an even better one. I want that perfect, pristine 150 that can kill literally anything on the map, besides Rockwell, the boss itself. And once I actually do get my hands on a Megalo of that magnitude, I'm going straight down to the Rock Drake Den, getting me a Rock Drake so I can traverse this map with 10 times the ease. With my little yap session about future plans behind us, I got to work straight away, starting off with the basics like smacking rocks so I can make more spark powder, which will eventually be turned into bullets and darts. Away from bullets and darts though, I was rather quickly reintroduced to the nuisance of yeelings, and not just a couple. Dude. Alright, you want it? You want it? Right, if only I had a good shotgun. What, dude? How many are you?
Even with my primitive pump, I made sure they felt the power of freedom before I continued whacking away at rocks. And once I was satisfied with the amount of flint and stone I gathered, I returned back home and started turning it into spark powder and gunpowder. On day 26, I started crafting the bullets and darts required to tame the pristine level 150 Megalo. I hadn't actually found one, I just, my hopes are high that I will find a 150. Anyway, I also made a few more shotgun shells just in case any yeelings decide to throw hands. And with everything I need on me, I returned to the blue zone with my Megalo this time, of course. And while looking for a 150, I made sure to kill every low level to force new ones to spawn in, so even if I don't find a 150 straight away, it might appear later on. I also leveled up my Megalo's HP to 10k and healed it next to a healing plant that also had an explorer node, which gave me 2 extra levels. But more importantly, I was getting more XP from all the Megalos that I killed, which I then put into melee damage. And I was starting to dish out some serious damage numbers. I even ran up to and dropped a level 90 Rock Drake, and soon after that I aggroed a Pyromane and a whole bunch of other creatures, but since I'm him and I have a powerful Megalo, I now destroyed everything. But I did have to stop by another healing plant to heal my guy back up to full health, as I did take quite a lot of damage during the fight. And I kept finding low level Megalos literally everywhere, and I think my reaction describes perfectly well how I felt. I continued the search on day 27, and I got into another fight which got my Megalo down to half health. It was mostly the Pyromanes that were an issue. They aren't even supposed to be on this map in the first place, and they're really annoying. And speaking of Pyromanes, I dismounted my Megalo while getting down from tree roots, and my guy straight beeline for the closest Pyromane.
Where are you going? Oh my god, it just got me killed.
I managed to run over and get on it before dying, but my blood pressure went up 2-fold.
You idiot! Dude, if I would have just lost that, there might be a brand new hole in my monitor. Not saying there is one now, but it'd be brand spanking new, because it would have just happened.
Following that incident, I of course had to do a pit stop by another healing plant to get my Megalo up to working conditions again. And after looking around for a little bit more and not finding anything tame worthy, I decided to return back home instead, where a yeeling was waiting for me. And it somehow got inside after I'd locked the gate behind myself, so I gave it a good old bola and bite treatment. I then repaired my completely shredded flak, and I shifted my focus to acquiring a gas collector.
So I gotta get gas going. So I've got the crystal. I'm gonna need to get red gems. Probably just gonna sit by a roll rat until he digs me up some.
That being said, I got back on my Megalo and set out to look for a roll rat.
Here's one.
But I first gotta get rid of this Diplo, as it can cause some issues, nothing personal though. Anyways, I waited by a healing plant to knock 2 birds out with 1 stone and get some more Z seeds while waiting for a roll rat to dig up some red gems for me.
Hey man, some red gems.
And after asking politely, Mr. Roll Rat actually delivered.
Oh, red gems. Wait, hold up. Dude, I got a ton of red gems.
But Mr. Rollrat was not happy about my presence after I decided to borrow his gems. He never even used them in the first place, but I gotta put him down, unfortunately. Anyhow, with that checked off the list, I returned back home and crafted a gas collector. I then got on Mr. Bear and went out to place the collector down on a gas vein on the edge of the green zone across the river not too far from my base.
This thing should be producing gas for me now. I'm gonna need that for hazmat. It's already got one. Where is my hand? Where are my arms?
After my hand grew back, I looked into the Engram page to see what else I would need for a hazmat suit, so you know, I can go down and get some rock drake eggs. Besides the gas balls, I really only needed to get crystal and polymer, but I would save that for later as I wanted to return back to the blue zone and go look for a level 150 megalo again. So on day 28, I got back on my megalo and ventured into the blue zone once again. And the Ark gods decided to bless me right away as there was a level 145 megalo waiting for me barely into the blue zone.
Oh my god. Right here.
So I set up the trap for it and then returned back home because I actually needed Pupper to lead the 145 into the trap. And when I returned on Pupper, I shot an arrow into the megalo and waited for it to chase me into the trap. But it wasn't that simple as it kept running off in a random direction every time I got close to the trap.
Dude, something's messing up his AI here.
It's almost as if I was standing right behind a force field.
What is wrong with you?
So I picked up the trap and moved it up higher to see if that would work. I then shot the megalo again and this time it went in. And even though it tried to leave, it still got trapped.
Damn.
I then shot its face while having an intense staring contest. The megalo lost. And while having the best nap of its life, I killed a couple of Titanobos for prime meat and then fed the sleeping beast. And I stared at it throughout the whole taming process to avoid any bugs like last time.
Well, megalo is tamed.
And looking at its stats, it had more melee but less health than my other megalo.
Dude, it's honestly not that much better than the 110 I tamed. I think the 110 I tamed was just insane somehow. So honestly, I could probably breed the two.
And I actually should breed them, and hopefully I get one with good health and the good melee stats combined. Anyways, I renamed the megalo and did some dino reorganizing. Oh, and an angry Carno came by to say hi, but I wasn't expecting any visitors, so I packed him up with Mr. Bear. Day 29 and I got the first egg, and it was actually incubating without any air conditioners, so at least I don't have to farm those up yet.
Bang!
And after staring at the egg menacingly for a minute, it popped out a perfect male, meaning it had both the good health and good melee. First try as well. So anyways, this would be the chosen warrior that I would take down into the depths of Aberration, where the rock drake nests are waiting for me, hopefully with a max level egg. Alright, I know that's been hopeful, but I stayed around the baby for a little bit to get it imprinted and hopefully try and make it stronger. That is up until it asked for prime meat jerky. So instead, I went out to gather the necessities for a hazmat suit, and starting off with the crystal and blue gems, I repaired my pickaxe and got on Pupper and went down just below my base where a bunch of blue crystals spawned. But after getting attacked by a bunch of snakes and a yeeling, I decided to head back up and bring out a megalo as well, you know, just to keep me safe. And after taking care of business, I started farming blue gems and crystal while occasionally getting harassed by a yeeling. Returning back home, I deposited all the crystal and gems into the fabricator and I crafted up a few bowls as well. Also, the perfect male megalo was grown by this point and it was getting attacked by a yeeling. But unfortunately for the little pest, it got picked up and clapped by my new killing machine. Now, I had to heal it up before going down to the rock drake trench, so I went out to look for a healing plant while also decimating anything that dared to interfere with me. And while force feeding my megalo to heal it up, a purple drop appeared literally right next to me.
Oh. I'll take a healing saddle. I'll tame one eventually, but I hate them right now.
I finished healing my megalo on day 30 and it was time to level him up a little bit so I would stand a good chance against all the rock drakes that are waiting for me in the red zone. So I started off by killing anything that looked like it could give a decent amount of XP, including the Carcinos, which I need to kill regardless for polymer so I can make the hazmat suit. And being at the lake made me realize that I was doing this completely wrong.
Oh, I need to kill Spinos for levels. What am I doing?
There was a Spino that was getting clapped by raptors, so I ran up but just missed out on the free experience as the raptors killed it. But more importantly, there's a basilisk as well. And once I killed it, I got an ascendant treasure map.
Oh my god, ascended treasure map.
I'll definitely be checking that out later as these explorer maps can have some really good loot sometimes, especially the ascendant ones. Anyways, I was now heading back home and not too far away from my gates was another army of yeelings waiting.
Dude, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
But I made it inside in one piece and deposited all the polymer into the fabricator, meaning I now had everything ready except for the gas balls. So I hopped on Pupper and went to check on my gas collector. And the collector was low-key cooking while I was out and about doing other things.
Now let's go check on the gas stocks. Really decent amount of Pause.
I did want to make 2 sets of hazmat just to be safe, but I started off with just making 1 set to see what else I would need to farm.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more crystal and more gas balls.
That being said, I repaired my pickaxe and pondered for a little bit, and then I got on Pupper to go look for crystal nodes. I wanted to go farm the blue crystal nodes in the blue zone at first, but looking at all the nasty things on there, I instead resorted to looking around the green zone for green gem crystals. On day 31, I unlocked the climbing pick engram, which would come in handy if things were to go south. One resource I have yet to come by, but slowly was gonna need was a bunch of silica pearls.
I thought there were supposed to be pearls in this river.
But those are a future problem for future me, so I farmed up some more crystal before going back home.
Alright, I've got 150 crystal. Should be enough. Let's head back.
And on my way back, I also made a new friend.
What? What's your problem, man? Alright, if that's really how it's gonna be. I don't know what I did to you.
And I spotted some crystal nodes as well, so I grabbed them before returning home. And that's where I deposited all the crystal and gems that I farmed, and then I went back out to my gas collector, which had produced some more gas balls. It was nothing crazy, but just enough to where I could craft a second set of hazmat.
Oh! What do I need? Oh, fiber? Oh, I can do fiber.
And with that, I had 2 hazmat suits. Oh, and I also made 10 climbing picks. I then farmed a little bit of thatch to make parachutes, unlocked the canteen engram, and then made 5 of those so I wouldn't have to rely on aquatic mushrooms to keep me hydrated anymore. And after filling them with water, I was basically ready to enter the red zone. So I emptied my Megalo's inventory, repaired my flak, and waited a little bit for more food to cook to keep me fed.
That's all I need, man. I don't really know what else I can need. As soon as it hits day 32, I'm off, dude. I'm looking for a rock drake.
And for the first drake, it doesn't have to be the top of the line best 190 out there. It just needs to be one I can traverse the map with ease and also get more drake eggs so I can get a better one in the future. Anyhow, I then made some sleeping bags just to be safe and stood around base waiting for day 31 to come to an end. And soon enough, it was day 32.
Alright, I think I'm ready to go get me a rock drake. Let's do this. If I die, I might cry.
I went down to the blue zone where I killed a bunch of snakes, and then I geared up with the hazmat suit and sent it right down into the depths of Aberration. Oh, and rather quickly I got introduced to the locals. A couple of rock drakes that for some reason gave me no raw meat when killed, and I probably would need that to heal my megalo down in the drake trench. Anyways, I soon entered the radiation zone. Despite my worries, the journey to the den was rather peaceful. I only came across a rock drake and a crab that were basically at the den.
We've arrived in the drake den, I think. Has to be.
The plan was simple: run along the edge of the den while using K mode to try and spot any eggs. And I soon found a couple, with a level 85 rock drake guarding them, so I dropped it and fell right down into the nest.
Level 10? Yeah, I'm not getting that.
But the very next egg was right next to the level 10, and it was actually a level 145. So now I've just got to get my megalo ready for a big fight before grabbing it.
A 145 is great though. I'm just gonna get this and get out if I can.
I fully healed up my megalo, jumped back, and snagged the egg.
Okay, here they come.
I got surrounded by drakes almost instantly, and due to my poor positioning, it was hard to hit some of the drakes. So I had to kill them one by one, but I was also getting bit by multiple, and they were dropping my health really quickly. But fortunately for me, I killed most of them and got a small window to heal while one of the drakes were stuck. And I spyglassed the seed's level, and it was a level 110, so I need to get as much health as possible, as that thing's probably going to deal a lot of damage. And when I was up to about half health, it finally came up and I killed it. I then jumped down and killed another 2 low-level drakes and started running out of there.
Oh my god, there's a ton of drakes.
Instead of taking them all head on, I tried to aggro them one at a time by shooting them with my shotgun. However, that did not go as planned, as when one aggroed, he brought over the whole gang. But since my megalo is an absolute Chad, he killed the whole group. Day 33, I got out of the drake trench, but I did not record it.
Oh my god, I've been recording my way out. Oh, I made my way out, as you can tell I'm very bloody, and I also lost Chocolate. I threw him off. I threw him off and he died. So I somehow got to make my way through the blue zone. No light pet.
But before going through the blue zone, I first healed up my megalo next to this healing plant. And once it was at full health, I started running. I did get slowed down by Ravagers, so I killed it and continued. I was not going to stick around and wait for all the nameless to swarm me. And I was a bit lost at first, but I continued in the general direction of my base. And I did a quick pit stop against another healing plant to get back up to full health again. And while running, I could ignore most things as they weren't as fast as me, but a rock drake really wanted to smoke, so I had to put it down. And fortunately, I made it out alive as the day was ending.
I'm back, gang.
Back at base, I made a few electronics and unlocked the rock drake saddle before calling it a day. Day 34, it's time to get to farming again. Specifically, I need a bunch of silica pearls for electronics because I need to make a lot of air conditioners to hatch this rock drake egg.
We go out to the fertile lake.
So I jumped on Mr. Bear and headed out, and on my way there I came across a purple drop, so I peeked inside to discover absolutely nothing that I need. Anyway, once I arrived, I got to gathering.
Alright, should be some pearls in here. Don't need a lot, but Need some.
I picked up basically all the pearls and ended with a little bit over 200 of them. Not bad, but probably not enough. Anyways, I headed back home to see. I then put all of them into the fabricator and started crafting as many electronics as I could. I then made a generator and the first 2 air conditioners, and looking into my forges, I was running out of metal as well, so I got on Sack and farmed a few trees just outside of my compound. I lit the forges and then grabbed the 2 air conditioners and placed them outside along with the generator. I powered it and then threw out the egg. I highly doubt it would start incubating though.
Any chance this incubates? Yeah, no.
So I need to farm more metal. But for that, I first needed to go get another bulldog as Chocolate was also dead.
Bro, I am not taming a level 10.
I kept finding low levels though for some reason. I honestly never thought finding a decent level bulldog could be a challenge.
Dude, why do these bulldogs suck?
The levels were so bad that I eventually found a level 70 and just decided to tame that. I did not want to waste any more time taming the light pet. But of all things, a yearling came over to attack the bulldog. So I gave the yearling a good old buckshot to the face and then went back to taming the bulldog.
Shonk it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I literally ran halfway across the map looking for a bulldog. I gotta farm metal.
So I headed straight into the blue zone over to the same spot that I usually farm metal, and I got back to work before the end of the day. I farmed till my pickaxe broke on day 35, and then I returned back home and split the metal into my forges. I made 1 air conditioner and then placed it down and threw out the egg again to see if 3 was enough, but nope, so it was a matter of waiting for all the metal to smelt now. In the meantime, I unlocked and crafted a shovel. I then checked my ascended treasure map and saw that it was in the green zone, so I got on a pupper and started running towards it. And on my way over, I actually found a really good drop for once.
Oh my god, $59 any day of the week.
Once I got close to the treasure, it looked like it was under the mesh.
Dude, it's where it's in the mesh. Dude. Wait, oh my god, can I get it? Oh my god, all that for a nutty sickle.
And a useless saddle that I threw away. While I was out here though, I went back over to the river for more silica pearls, and I packed up 2 raptors and dived in to see if they'd respond yet.
Oh no, did the pearls not respond?
Yeah, it seems that I came back too early because none of the pearls were there. So I got on a pupper and headed back home, where I then made 1 more air conditioner and checked to see if it was enough.
Maybe 4 will do the job. May not. I'll be able to craft 1 more, being 5. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to go farm more pearls.
And in fact, it was not enough. I waited for more metal to smelt, and I made the last air conditioner I could right now.
Please, 5 be the number that I need.
But it wasn't, so I made a pair of flippers to make getting pearls easier and got on a pupper to go out to farm some. That's if they've already respawned. While crossing a lake on day 36, a few piranhas wanted the smoke, and this was the perfect opportunity for me to try out my new sickle.
Oh, this sickle might be my saving grace.
I even clapped a Sarco and all the piranhas got 1 tap. Turns out it wasn't that useless after all. And while swimming around, I also found this little fella.
Skipper.
But he's not what I'm here for. Instead, I gotta get pearls, which I then shortly found, just as another Sarco found me as well. Little did he know, he was the victim in this situation. Anyways, the pearls were a bit harder to spot as they kinda look like rocks now in ASA. And I really started testing the sickle's limits when I noticed this thing.
Might be cooked here.
But I sent it and actually dropped the Spino, and then a second Spino came by, and it was a level 60, but it was still no match for my ascended sickle. And when I killed it, its body floated perfectly at the surface so I could regain stamina on top of it. That's some different type of disrespect right there for the Spinos. Anyways, with my dominance asserted across the whole egg, I collected what little silica pearls that I could find and returned back home. And I crafted enough electronics for an extra 2 air conditioners.
What are the odds 7 is enough? What?
It indeed wasn't enough. I did have a different idea in mind though, so I crafted 4 thatch foundations and some walls, which I placed down outside next to my air conditioners. And I went out to gather the rest of the resources required to craft the ceilings, walls, and the door. And then I moved everything inside of the 2x2 and threw out the egg again.
Wow.
It was still not enough though, so I grabbed the metal for my forges and made even more electronics, and in the meantime I went out with Pupper to farm some more blue gems and crystal. And after farming that plus a couple of ravagers, I returned and crafted another air conditioner.
I think I'm just stuck in an infinite air conditioner crafting glitch.
But it still wasn't enough.
Bro! How many air conditioners do you need?
On day 37, I waited for even more metal to smelt before crafting yet another air conditioner, and I placed it down, threw out the egg, and nothing. So I gotta get back on the grind. I got on a pupper and went down to the blue zone to get more metal for the forges again. And on my way back to base, I ran into a smaller issue.
Oh my god.
But my sickle had me covered. I chopped up the megalo and saved Pupper.
Sickle for the win, dude.
Anyhow, back at base, I had to put down a yearling before getting out on my doed to get more stone, as I wanted to craft 3 more forges to speed up the metal production. But I quickly ran into some opposition, so I whipped out my trusty sickle and chopped down both a Sarco and even a Carquinos. And back at base, I grabbed what little metal that I had and made another air conditioner, and then I placed down the 3 new forges and I filled them up. I didn't have much real estate inside my base anymore though, but that's a future problem for future me to solve. But at least I was cooking up metal at a faster rate now. And I also added 2 large storage boxes right outside to keep some of my resources, as everything was starting to fill up in here. Anyway, while waiting for the metal to cook, I went out on my megalo to farm up a little bit of crystal just to go keep me safe. And during my hike, I also spyglassed a couple of Enkies, but they were both low level. So I got like 90 crystal before heading back home and clapping another yearling. But more importantly, I made 2 more air conditioners, grabbed the egg, placed it down, and
oh my god, it's incubating.
ah!
They doubted me.
They doubted me, but I'm here, incubating this egg. After that Nobel's Award worthy speech, I stared down the egg as it slowly incubated into day 38. And just like that, my first baby rock drake was born on day 38. I then packed up all the air conditioners and the entire 2x2, and then named the little guy Blueberry, and I imprinted him.
Sir.
Besides that, I unlocked the catapult engram, as I now plan to tame a Carquinos and an Enki to make metal farming way more efficient. And while Blueberry grew, I went out with Sack to farm wood for the catapult and the rock drake saddle. And once back home, I got a little bit of fiber with my overpowered sickle, and I repaired my flax, shortly followed by crafting the saddle, of course. I then farmed some stone with my doed for the catapult, and I basically had everything I need except for the metal. So in the meantime, my rock drake grew up and I saddled him up.
I am on a rock drake. Oh my god, this feels good. I'm gonna make sure to heal this guy up though, and then I'm gonna go level him.
That being said, I grabbed what little raw meat that I had and went out to look for a healing plant. And right outside my base, I spotted another yearling on the ground just existing, so I, of course, came over to say hi. But since it started flying, I didn't feel like waiting for it to land again, so I left. And I soon finally found a healing plant, so I started force feeding Blueberry to heal as well. And once he had enough health, I went out looking for blood. The first thing I killed was a Sarco, which gave me 1 level. And on the other side of the river, I spotted an Explore note, so of course I picked that up. I then leveled Blueberry's stamina and got back to killing. This crab wanted all the smoke until he saw me clap the Spino and then turned 180 degrees and dipped. Pretty comical if you ask me. While eating another Spino, I checked the time to see that it was basically nighttime outside, meaning I could perhaps explore the surface for the first time.
Ooh, it's 90% night? Ooh, I go to the surface. I definitely could. I could try to get some drops, get some good loot, maybe even a crazy rock drake saddle blueprint.
Anyways, I leveled up a bunch of health and killed a few more Spinos before going over to another healing plant.
Trying to heal up before going out to the surface here.
I didn't heal up all the way because I didn't want to waste much time. At around 7k health, I headed out to the surface.
So, why are there no drops?
I glided over the ledge to see if I could spot any drops, but I didn't see a single one. Instead, I got attacked by a seeker that I killed and got some oil from.
I'm so confused. Why are there no drops?
Perhaps I was just unlucky, so I went back inside to try a different surface entrance. I made it out to the second surface entrance on day 39, but once again, I didn't see any drops.
There's no drops. Why are there no drops? So I'm just going back.
So I returned home and made a quick plan of action instead.
Alright, now that I have a rock drake and he's got some decent levels on him, as I said earlier, I want to tame a trap.
But first, I had to farm up said trap, which is not cheap. I do have my trusty Dodic and Rollrat though, so I crafted the first 17 stone foundations and a dinosaur gateway. Then I rolled out with my Dodic to gather more stone.
Just hit me. A Cosmo? I'm sorry. Go away.
And there was a second one also spitting webs at me, so he got the same treatment. But the Cosmos weren't the biggest issue. I got attacked by a pack of Ravagers, so I had to fall back. They couldn't hit me while I was rolling though, so I got away, but a crab right outside my gate sadly noticed me.
Oh! Somehow made it back safe and alive.
Anyways, the next resource on the agenda was thatch. And of course, I gotta farm that by hand, but I got it done. And when I got back, I crafted the rest of the dino gateways, pillars, and ceilings necessary for the Carquinos trap.
That should be my crab trap besides, you know, the catapult.
I did have everything for the catapult ready as well, so I crafted it and I was basically ready to go out and tame a giant crab. So I got on Blueberry and headed out to look for a decent level.
Alright, let's look for a crab. And I kind of just pulled this trap out of where the sun doesn't shine, so we'll see if it actually even works. It should.
And already I found a level 90, which was pretty good, but I wanted to look around a bit more to see if I could perchance get a higher level. However, after a bit of searching around, I just settled on the 90 because I don't have all day.
So I think I'm gonna go with that. Kind of nice by my base. I would have liked a higher level, but they honestly don't have to be high level. It's just nice if they can have some health to soak up some hits if they need to.
Which is a pretty common issue in the blue zone, as basically everything there is hostile. Yeah, the 90 would have worked just fine, but I actually found a level 135 while going back to base. So I killed a roll rat and a high level racer to keep it safe, and I started constructing the trap.
Hey man, I'm trying to build here. You aren't supposed to be over here yet. Hey man, I need you to get off the trap.
But I needed to craft a few more foundations in order to place out the gateways properly, so I went back home to make them. Then I returned and placed down the rest of the gates, leaving one side open for the giant crab. I then let it, after it stopped breakdancing, of course.
I think I got it. Now can I get out? Really? Yes.
With the crab trapped, I farmed up a little bit of wood and thatch to make a few foundations. That way I could align the catapult properly, and then I placed down the pillars, a ceiling, ladders, and the catapult. And with that constructed, I returned back to base and jumped on a doed, as I need stone to craft the boulders to actually knock out the crab. So I farmed a few rocks and I grabbed as much as I could carry, and then flew back to the crab and crafted the boulders and shot at it. I hit it a few times, but it did not go to sleep and was slowly getting hurt, so I gotta find something to feed it to keep its health up.
Of course it's a 150, but also clap it. The sickle, dude. God, this sickle's crazy. Hey man, eat this. There we go.
I then shot it a bunch more times, but I wasn't sure I was doing it right, so I returned back to base and grabbed some of the resources for a magnifying glass. I say some because I actually needed some obsidian, which I'm yet to gather. And the only spot that I really knew where I could get obsidian was deep down in the red zone. So I put on my hazmat and flew straight down into the radiation zone with blueberry.
Pretty sure there's obsidian down here, right?
Yes. With a bit of obsidian gathered, I returned back to the crab and took some of the metal from the catapult and made a magnifying glass.
Oh yeah, it's almost out.
That being said, I needed more stone to continue, so I made another trip back to base to grab some. And with that, I made 6 more boulders and shot at it. But while trying to see its torpor, I got a little bit too close.
Oh, put me down. Put me down. Oh no. Yeah, I'm cooked.
So I respawned back at base and got on Pupper and sprinted right back. Thankfully, the trap was really close to my base, so I made it back rather quickly, and Chonketh also survived. I then shot it with all the boulders that I had left, and I actually knocked it out.
Yes, it's out.
So I flew back to base, but since I had no metal to actually repair my flak, I went down to the blue zone to gather just a little bit, as like I'm dead broke right now. I then returned home, started smelting, and I gathered some spoiled meat for the crab. And back at the trap, I gave it the spoiled meat and force-fed it some narcotics to keep it asleep while it tamed.
This guy's gonna take a minute to tame.
So in the meantime, I brought Pupper back to base and ran back on foot.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and watch this thing tamed.
And when it was close to getting tamed, I unlocked its saddle engram and flew back home to craft one. I also repaired my flak while I was at it, and I ran back to the crab again just as it tamed.
And it's tamed. 135 Tarkinos, now level 202, and it's mine.
I then picked up the trap and named him.
What am I gonna name this thing? No names really coming to mind. Great crab.
Anyhow, I then jumped right back into my base. And with the Carquina secured, I think it was about time to go out and tame an Anki as well. So I grabbed my taming gear, got on Blueberry, and headed out into the blue zone. And search for an Anki I did. I looked through the majority of a blue zone, but I couldn't find anything worth taming. But I did also take a peek at a few megalos to see if I could find a 150, but to no avail. So the search continued on to day 42, and I eventually found something worth taming, a level 120. I grabbed my sickle and killed the snake that it was fighting. And then I got my long neck out and started knocking it out. But even more snakes soon joined the fight, so I had to get Blueberry involved.
Dude, how many snakes are there?
Once those were finally taken care of, I continued pelting the Anki until it went to sleep.
I need to set up some spike walls around this guy.
And I first killed any dangers that were lurking around, and then I farmed some wood and made some spike walls to protect it. After placing down the walls, I returned back to base and used Mr. Bear to farm Meho berries to actually feed the Anki. Oh, and I also unlocked the Anki saddle, but I couldn't make one yet because I was lacking on the metal. So then I returned back to the snoozing Anki and I fed it and waited around for it to tame. Some wild rock drake also pulled up on me thinking I had my guard down, but I quickly took care of it before the end of the day. The Anki was about to tame on day 43, so I picked up the spike walls.
Anki. Alright, time to lead this guy to a charge node so I can upload him.
Luckily, the charge node wasn't too far away, so I uploaded the Anki and flew back to base where I crafted a few more bolas. I then headed out on my megalo to the nearest charge node, downloaded the Anki, and led it into its new home. Well, almost.
Where are you going?
So I got on my crab and picked up a little bugger and brought him into the compound forcefully. But I was still missing the metal for its saddle, so I went right back down to the blue zone with my rock drake and farmed just a little bit. And while the metal cooked, I named the Anki.
Ank.
Very fitting and concise. Shortly after, I made the saddle, meaning I can now go on my first big metal farm. So of course, I got on my crab, yoinked Ank, and jumped down into the blue zone. And while trying to move the Anki to some more metal nodes, it got placed right under beneath Gray Crab somehow, making it stuck. I couldn't jump away, and I couldn't move the Anki, and I couldn't even whistle it. This is some stupid glitch.
How This is so stupid. Am I really gonna have to use cheats to get out of this? I'm stuck for no reason.
Well, I didn't have any other option but to use ghost mode to get out, so I did, and I got right back to farming. I farmed until my crab almost got encumbered, and then I slowly jumped back towards base before the end of the day. I arrived back at base on the morning of day 44.
Back one metal.
And as you can see here, I got a pretty decent amount of it. So I split it all into the forges and picked the Anki up outside of my base as it was stuck, and then filled up the forges with more wood and lit all of them.
Alright, that's a ton of metal going. I really want the tech forge, you know? But I'm gonna have to level up. Like, oh wait, no, I can make it. Steam forge. Woohoo! That thing is pricey. Okay, I think before that, I think a base expansion is definitely needed.
It should be pretty simple to load up on various resources now that I have a crab though, so I grabbed my doedic and began farming stone. But our raptor was not a fan of my farming in peace and started attacking my doedic, so I did the only logical thing you can with a crab.
Oh yeah? Is that how you feel? Goodbye.
And with a bit of stone farmed, I headed back home. And while jumping back, I got attacked yet again, this time by a pack of ravagers that clearly didn't see what happened to the raptor.
Hey.
So I gave them a similar experience. Anyways, back at base, I repaired my pickaxe to farm thatch with. But first, I actually wanted to see if Mr. Bear could farm thatch. So I hopped on and dropped a tree, and sadly, Mr. Bear could not.
No.
What it could do though is clap ravagers.
I've got nothing that can farm. I'm gonna tame an iguanodon. I bet that'll farm thatch.
That being said, I got a few meho berries with Mr. Bear, and then got on Blueberry to go out and look for an iguanodon. I found a decent level rather quickly, so I settled for it.
Like a level 90.
I knocked it out and returned back to base for my crab, and I also unlocked the saddle engram and crafted one. And once back at the iguanodon, I waited for it to tame, and when it woke up, I gave it the saddle and tested it out on a couple of trees.
It's not a bad thatch farmer.
So while heading back towards base, I farmed a few trees to stock up on thatch. And finally back at base, I moved some of my resources that I had in the storage boxes into sack. And then I picked up the structures next to my base so I would have room for an expansion. I used the stone foundations I had left from the previous traps to expand the floor. And I also picked up the ramps and the gate in the front and expanded that as well. Then I grabbed the steampunk skin and applied it to all the new foundations and structures.
Okay, I think I'm gonna push ahead for this forge, which is really expensive. And I need a ton of electronics, which means I'm probably gonna need an anglerfish.
So on day 45, I grabbed Ank with my crab and set out to farm a little bit of flint and stone. And once back at base, I turned that all into spark powder. And I also replaced 2 storage boxes and moved all the junk from my mortar and pestles into them. I then also repaired my long neck and started crafting gunpowder and bullets. And to speed up the whole process, I made yet another mortar and pestle, which I placed right next down to the fabricator. This one I'd use for making narcotics. And speaking of, I started spoiling meat in my inventory and farming narco berries with Mr. Bear. Then I brought it all into the new mortar and pestle and made some more narcotics. And while those were cooking up, I made darts and farmed some more with Mr. Bear. This cycle continued until I had 46 darts, and then I got on Blueberry and headed into the blue zone to look for a decent level anglerfish.
Clearly he can't pick me up the rock drake, right? Wait, what am I doing? Before I risk my rock drake, I need to go get more eggs. Yep, change of plans immediately.
So I returned back home, equipped the hazmat suit, and headed out into the red zone. I flew straight down into the rock drake den and started looking at the eggs. The first half of the den didn't even have anything of interest, so I flew to the other one. But that didn't look promising either. I checked every egg, but I didn't find anything worth stealing. So of course, I flew to another part of the den. And there I found exactly what I was looking for.
160, dang.
I snagged it and flew away so the dregs couldn't swarm me. I then took a look at a couple more eggs, and I'm glad I did because I found an even better one.
175?
So I grabbed that as well and perched on top of a rock and waited for the drakes to calm down before going in for the third time and finding yet another level 175. Seeing that this strategy was working, I waited on the same rock again for a little bit and went back to check the last few eggs. But I didn't find anything else worth taking at the time, so I started heading back home with 3 high level eggs that should be more than enough. And I was back home with the eggs on day 46.
I'm gonna pop one of these 175 drake eggs, you know?
I grabbed the air conditioners and the generator and I made some more gasoline. I also crafted 16 more stone foundations and expanded the front of my base and applied the steampunk skins as well. Then I grabbed the air conditioners and lined them up on the edge of the platform. I then placed and powered the new generator and threw out the egg, but it wasn't incubating, so I picked them all up and made them into a U shape instead.
Yeah. It's just gotta be straight up surrounded like that.
So I waited for the egg to incubate, and once it did, I actually got twins.
Oh, twins, dude. No way.
I waited for the imprint timer, and one of them wanted nameless venom, but the other one wanted to go on a walk, so I imprinted it and checked its stats.
This melee is actually terrible. Definitely a travel drake.
Anyways, I got on my Megalo and headed down to the blue zone to get that nameless venom.
I just need some nameless venom. Why don't you grow into an alpha? Oh, there it is.
But I got some from the small nameless, so I returned back home and imported the other drake as well. Now that I've got plenty of drakes to spare, I could return to the original task at hand, getting an anglerfish. Once again, I flew back down to the blue zone and killed a Carcinos, and I began looking in one of the small ponds to find this.
Oh my god, a 140. Alright, time to eliminate all the threats in the area.
My plan was to aggro the 140 and get it trapped using a fence foundation and a wall. That way I can knock it out from the shore with my long neck.
Can I get their attention perchance? I got that one. I didn't want this one, I'm not gonna lie.
But I had to do some more threat clearing before going at it again. After that was done, I prepared the fence foundations and grabbed the angler's aggro again. I managed to separate the lower levels, so I killed it with blueberry before going in to get the other angler trapped.
Their angler, come here.
But Mr. Angler was not cooperating at all. He was swimming around randomly, sometimes trying to bite me and sometimes just swim away at the last second.
Dude, this thing is so bipolar.
So I picked up the fence foundations and tried a different strategy.
Why did you just lose aggro? This is so clap.
Instead of dealing with a mentally unstable angler, I returned back home to get a bigger trap. I crafted a few ceilings and grabbed some more walls, and I also made some triangle ceilings before going back down to the angler. Once there, I killed a crab and got on my flippers and dived in to construct the trap.
Hey, stop, I'm not ready.
And I built most of the trap before he came back in for round 2. Once I got it off me, I finished the trap and let it in.
Come on, turn radius. No way that trap works. That's crazy. What? You really knock it out? That's awesome. Okay.
And I could stand right on top of the triangle ceilings and shoot the angler from there.
Problem is, it's so hard to see through the water.
But I got an idea, so I returned back home and grabbed a couple of extra ceilings and walls. And when I returned, I snapped them right to the trap and made myself a little platform to stand and shoot from.
Alright, perfect.
While knocking it out, I noticed a crab jumping towards me, and when I started attacking it, I somehow got picked off.
Oh, no way!
But I whistled Blueberry to stay on neutral and got my sicko out, and of course, I survived because I'm him. Unfortunately though, the angler lost literally all of its torpor, so I gotta start shooting it again. And after shooting it once, I checked to see how much the torpor actually drained.
It drops so quick, what?
So I did some quick research to find out that I don't even have enough taming gear to knock this thing out right now.
I think I'm just gonna have to farm up a lot more narcotics. It should be fine to stay in there trapped.
So I returned back home for now. I grabbed whatever spoiled meat my tames had and then started spoiling even more meat in my inventory. And I got a Mr. Bear and kept farming narco berries. And while farming, I took a look into the Ingram page and it got me thinking.
Maybe I make shocking darts? Yeah, because I can get biotoxin from this.
Anyways, I returned to base and started making more narcotics and more rifle bullets, which I then turned into darts. I then farmed a few more berries and made my first few shocking trank darts before the end of the day. I was feeling confident with the amount of tranks I had on day 48, so I headed back down to the trapped angler. This time, I went on a megalo instead to kill any threats before trying to knock out the angler, as if I got attacked while tranking it out, a lot of my darts would go to waste. Anyways, I jumped down and started munching on everything around me. And once the coast seemed clear, I parked my megalo and started knocking out the angler again.
And it's unconscious.
I immediately gave it some narcotics to keep it asleep, and then I got on my megalo and killed a few things for prime meat to actually tame it. And after feeding it, I waited around until it tamed.
And this is how I can transfer it, I think. Dang, that's crazy. Oh my god. Spoils?
I fought my way back to base, then got on sack and farmed a few trees for wood, and with that I crafted 6 dino gates and a scuba tank.
Alright, let's finally go get some pearls, man. Some real pearls.
On day 49, I arrived at the lake and I released my angler back out. Then I constructed an enclosure for it to keep it safe from piranhas. Even then, I left it on neutral just to be safe. I then swam out to get some pearls, but I couldn't access the angler's inventory for some reason, so I quickly relogged to see if that would fix it, but it didn't.
Why can't I access inventory?
I then farmed up another fish basket and trapped the angler again, but even after letting it out again, it was still broken for some reason.
I think the fish basket breaks it somehow. Yeah, it doesn't have a weight stat. I think the fish basket just completely breaks it. Yeah, I can't farm pearls now. What? If I could find some way to upload and download it.
I flew back home as I had one more idea in mind, and that was to make cryopods. I grabbed all the resources that I would need and glided over to a charge node.
I can't craft cryopods here.
Right above me though, I noticed a drop however, so I made 4 cryopods there. But I also do need a cryo fridge to actually throw out the cryopods, so I headed back home to get more metal and crystal. And once back at the drop, I realized I forgot to bring the electronics, so back to base I go. And the Ark gods blessed me for the second time today as I had exactly 23 pearls, which I made into 7 electronics, which is exactly how many you need for 1 cryo fridge.
There we go.
So I picked up my generator from the hatching area and flew back to the lake, where I then placed the generator and cryofridge down and then cryoed up the angler. And once the cooldown was done on the cryofridge, I threw out the angler and I could finally see its inventory. Yes. I'm so unbelievably and incredibly smart and attractive and handsome. After all that hassle, I was still glad I had an angler as I was getting a ton of pearls with each bite. Oh my god, so many pearls. This is diabolical. So I farmed a bunch of pearls while leading an entire army of piranhas around. And then I picked up the angler pen, cryoed it, and flew back home before the end of the day. I had to return on day 50 though, as I didn't pick up the generator and the cryofridge. So after picking them up, I placed down the generator back behind the hatching area, and I moved the mortar and pestle next to the fabricator to make space for the cryofridge. I also then started crafting a bunch of electronics before going out to a nearby charge node to see what I needed to craft element. Which batteries? So I unlocked the engram and checked on my gas collector, which has stacked up a ton of balls by now. I'm probably gonna need a lot more metal. Oh, I ran out of wood. That's the problem. So I relit all of my forges and I moved 2 of the other mortar and pestles next to the cryofridge as well. I then grabbed all the metal ingots that were already smelted and stored them in the fabricator to see how many more I would need for the steam forge. Then I crafted 2 more storage boxes to store my resources in, as I had a lot of hide and other stuff that was just laying around in sack. And once I organized all that, I took sack out to farm more wood, and some of which I then used as more fuel for my forges. I then got on my crab and picked up ink and headed back out to farm some crystal for the new forge. Gonna go farm some crystal. And with a little bit over 600 acquired, I returned back home and stored it in the fabricator. I then emptied the stone from my doedic into the mortar and pestle and went out to get more. I needed this to start making cementing paste. And once I had enough for all 3 of my mortar and pestles, I returned and distributed it evenly and filled the rest with chitin. Now each mortar and pestle was producing around 200 cementing paste, which is exactly how much I would need. All the cementing paste done just like that. So now it's just the metal and polymer, and then the element actually required to run it. The polymer I would get from killing crabs, but I do want to first get a better megalosaur, or rather a fully imprinted one. So I bred my perfect male with the female before the end of the day. An egg popped out on day 51, so I threw it out at the air conditioners and waited for it to hatch by doing some epic parkour. And my jumping ritual had worked, and I got a perfect female with both of the good stats. So I named and fed her, and thankfully all she needed to imprint was an Amar berry. And after the imprint, the stats were looking much better. I then sat around the megalo feeding it while it grew up. And once it did, I grabbed Chonketh and got ready for some violence in the name of progress. Alrighty, let's go farm polymer. My first victim was a Sarco just to see what this megalo could actually do. Oh god, this thing's putting out damage. So I moved on to the crabs. This thing is strong. I swam over to a healing plant and healed her up about halfway before continuing my rampage. And after a few more weak crabs, I spotted this guy. Oh my god, Alpha Carcinos. I need to kill that. I'd like to heal up with a plant first though. I ran around looking for one, but I didn't see any, so I resorted to killing a Paracer for more meat, and just force feeding it up to around 7k health, which should be more than enough to take down this giant big crab. So I first killed the Spino before attacking the Carcinos. Dude, they broke Carcinos. What is this hitbox? I gotta like hit its hands. Right, it can't pick me up. Broken was an understatement as well. At one point the crab just completely stopped attacking me, and when it started to get bloody, it just ran off. Oh, why is it so fast? Dude, it is so low. Finally. Got the Alpha Carcinos claw. And 26 levels, holy. My Megalo was pretty low on health after that fight, so I had to pause the crab killing grind and return back home. But just as I ran out of stamina, I got jumped by a pack of Ravagers. No, not good, not good. Not good. I killed them, however, my Megalo was still critically low now, and when I tried to cryo it, I got jumped again. And just before I killed the last Ravager, it bit me and my Megalo started bleeding to death. No, it's gonna die. Dude, Ravager bleed is so annoying. And to make matters even worse, I was getting chased by raptors now as well. But I did manage to bowl all of them and I legged it out of there. I did get away, but I was pretty far from base now considering I'm now on foot. So what I decided to do was get up as high as I could, and I could then jump and parachute back towards home. And you can call me calculated because I landed exactly at my behemoth gate. I am him. Anyways, I stored the polymer away and transferred more metal ingots into the fabricator. Oh my god, I have just enough metal. So I had everything I needed for the steam forge except polymer. So I threw out another megalosaur egg to the hatchery, and when it hatched, it was another perfect female, thankfully. I then flew out on a rock drake and killed a stego for some more raw meat, and then I fed it to the baby megalo. After that, I went into the blue zone and I actually found another Alpha Carcinos. There's another alpha. What? I'm just gonna go get on my old megalo. I don't really want to kill the other Alpha Carcinos. There's no point for me to. I've already got the claw. Having said that, I got on my old megalo and went back down to kill the alpha crab because I still needed the polymer.
Hey there.
And while throwing hands, our regular Carquinos thought he could be of help and came to assist the Alpha.
Wait till I kill this one, buddy.
But he got dropped, and the Alpha actually ate its corpse, so I didn't get any polymer for that. But just a few bites later, the Alpha was dead too. And after that fight, I found a healing plant and sat around for a little bit while feeding the Megalo to heal it back up. Then I continued the hunt for crabs. I spotted one across the lake that was probably infested with piranhas and other nasties, so instead I ran to the other side and shot the crab, making it jump to me. A free delivery of polymer, you could say.
Dude, I need just a little more polymer. Wasn't there one more crab? Yeah, it's way over there.
And with the last crab killed, I started heading back, when out of nowhere I got jumped by all sorts of various ops.
Oh my. I'm having PTSD, dude.
But I made it out of there on day 53 and I got home safely. Unfortunately though, I couldn't make the steam form just yet because the fabricator didn't have enough slots to fit all the polymer.
Oh no, it all can't fit. Yeah, dang it. I'm gonna have to farm obsidian. I think I need like 100 hard polymer.
So I took whatever obsidian I had and started crafting all that in the hard polymer. But of course, nothing can be easy in Ark and I gotta get more obsidian. So I equipped my hazmat suit because the only place I really knew where I could find obsidian was deep down in the red zone. Anyhow, I also bred my perfect megalos and fed my rock drakes before they starved.
I might make one of these a weight rock drake. I think I will. Wait.
I borrowed the saddle from Blueberry and waited for the Megalosaur egg to pop. I then flew out on the Weight Drake to kill a Spino for some extra levels. And after that, I flew straight down into the red zone and I farmed the obsidian nodes down there.
Alright, that should be enough obsidian.
And while climbing out of there, I also spotted a yellow drop, which of course I opened and behold.
Oh, no way. Crazy drop. Not even a crazy saddle, but like, I will gladly take that.
Anyways, I put the obsidian into the fabricator and crafted 100 more polymer before getting on my crab to farm more stone for paste. I couldn't farm in peace though, as I got jumped by raptors and scorpions. The first couple were granted the gift of death, but the second raptor, he was sent to the shadow realm.
Goodbye.
I soon had enough stone, so I returned back home and dumped the stone into a mortar and pestle.
Ooh, my generator is running on fumes.
And looking around, I didn't have any oil or chitin, so I first went out to get more chitin by killing the crabs again.
Oh, dude, that's not enough chitin.
And one more crab did it. I returned back home to base and started crafting the paste.
How much paste do I have? Oh, yep, I don't need more chitin. Oh, is that gonna be enough? Don't think so.
I then took whatever little chitin I could find in any of my tames, but it still wasn't enough, so I returned to the river one more time to kill a couple more crabs.
Oh my god, I obliterated that crab.
And back at base for hopefully the last time, I waited for the final bits of paste to be produced, and then I finally crafted the steam forge.
I did not think it'd take that long to make a forge out of all things. Is this thing giant? Oh my god, it's huge. Holy. Look at that thing. Alright, gonna have to find some place to place this.
Day 54 began with me picking up the air conditioners as I needed space for the absolutely enormous steam forge. And after moving my tames off the platform, I placed the forge.
This thing's huge. Yeah, it requires element.
So I had a new side mission, getting element. I returned to the charge node to see what the requirements were again.
Need to make batteries.
So I grabbed whatever gas balls I had in the collector and returned back home to craft some.
I'm gonna need more metal. I got it, luckily.
So I made as many batteries as I could, and I then flew back to the charge node to, charge them. And they actually charged up pretty quick. So the only two other resources I gotta get my hands on were red gems and element ore. So I put my hazmat suit back on again and dived down into the red zone. This time into the rock drake den where you can get the element ore.
Element ore, right?
There was a rock drake right in front of me, but since he was just breakdancing, I got off and started mining. But other drakes quickly noticed me and started attacking me, so I had to put them down before farming more.
I'm just gonna have to hope that's enough element ore.
That being said, I dashed out of there and climbed back up to look for more red gems, which I soon found, so I gathered a little bit before returning back home. I also grabbed the green and blue gems and gas balls and flew over to the charge node.
One element. Oh, it made 3. Okay. Oh, but then it closes up. Huh. I'll take 3 element.
So I flew to another charge node and waited for my batteries to charge so I can make some more element.
Sure, 3 more element.
And with fuel for the forge required, it was time to do a proper metal run again. I emptied Ank's inventory and got on my crab and jumped into the blue zone where I then farmed a ton of metal. I farmed all the way into day 55. And when I had about 4 rows of metal, I called it for the metal run and returned back.
Alright, this is a decent amount of metal. Let's go see how this forge handles it.
I transferred all the metal into the new forge and I fueled it with one element which actually powered it for an hour.
Oh yeah, that's pretty quick. Alright dude, now I think it's about time that I run a cave.
But not before getting some oil because I'm all out of gas and my American needs require satisfying.
This thing looks super cool when it's on. Holy. Oh, it's super hot. It's really hot. Smells super quick though. Anyway, I need to go get oil.
So I took out Blueberry to the river to kill trilobites for oil.
Tons of trilobites.
And after my advanced fishing session, I flew back home to turn some of the oil into gas. And with that, my generator was back up and running. And now with oil and gas checked off my to-do list, it was time to go out and retrieve the first of the 3 artifacts. And the first one I was going to was located in the Glowtail cave. So I took my perfect female megalo and ran over to a healing plant to heal her up. And later on, after arriving near the cave, I stopped by to heal at another healing plant. I then made it into the cave before the end of the day, but there was an issue.
No.
My megalo couldn't fit through, so I dismounted and continued on foot.
Is there nothing in here?
But that couldn't be further from the truth. When I ventured deeper on day 56, I saw what was waiting for me.
Holy. I think I'm just gonna have to try and place a cryo fridge.
I tried fitting through one more time, but to no avail, so I headed out of the cave and ran all the way back to base. And back at home, I made some more electronics for yet another generator. And I picked up my cryo fridge, and I took some gas, and then started running back to the cave again. And once there, I headed in and placed my generator and cryo fridge down. And after waiting a century for the cooldown to be over, I threw the megalo out inside the cave and picked up my structures. I tried to do some megalosaur parkour, but it did not work, so I had to re-cryo it again. And I also had to climb down to the next part of the cave. I then got onto a ledge where I thought was safe from the Carnos, however... I managed to catch myself on the wall though, so once the Carnos fell down, I climbed back up to the platform they were on and I continued into the cave. And very quickly I discovered the artifact room, which was surprisingly easy to get. I grabbed the artifact, but I got chased off the platform, so I jumped down and parachuted.
Oh no, the wall.
And I grabbed onto the wall just in time and I climbed back up to safety. And while running through the cave, I got jump scared by another raptor.
Whoa!
So I climbed up the wall again to avoid it, and while running through a tunnel I spotted a blue drop being guarded by a scorpion. So I pulled out my trusty sickle and chopped it up before seeing what's in the drop. I made it out of the cave after that, so I technically didn't even need the Jenny and cryo fridge. Anyways, I placed them both down and waited for the cooldown to throw out my megalo again. And I made it back home as the day came to an end. On day 57, I decided to look at some of the new items added with Aberration.
I want to craft one of these gene things. I don't know really anything about them. Just know that they were added and you can make your creatures super strong with them. They're kind of like buffs.
So I pulled the necessary resources into the fabricator and made the gene scanner first.
So how does this work? What do my megalos have? No traits? That's not good. Plant bearing? That's... I don't really know how the traits work.
While I was looking through the engram page and unlocking some more items, I noticed that it was 90% night again. So without hesitation, I got on Blueberry and headed back out to a surface entrance to see if I could find any drops this time. But once again, I was met with disappointment.
There's no drops. I don't understand. Why are there no drops?
I still had no idea why drops weren't spawning on the surface, so I returned back home to do something productive instead. I made more stone foundations to expand the platform with. That way, I could have a new hatching area since the Steam Forge took up the majority of the real estate that I had right now. I then moved my tames out of the way, well, most of them at least.
AIs are stupid.
Then I got to placing down the foundations and applying the steampunk skin to them as well. And now I'm running a bit low in the stone department, so I got on my crab and grabbed the doed to go farm some more stone. And for round 2, I grabbed Ank and used him to farm thatch. That is until a yearling started to annoy me, so I followed it until it made the mistake of landing. Then I picked it up with my crab and repeatedly slammed it into the ground until it finally flatlined. And back at base, I used the freshly farmed resources to make even more foundations. And once the platform was constructed, I moved the generator closer to make sure that it could power everything in my base. Then I grabbed my ACs and lined them up on the edge of the platform. I also made some more ramps to make going up and down easier. And with that constructed, I brought my perfect male and female megalos over. I then made them breed and waited for the egg to pop. On day 58, I made a slight upgrade to my food production by unlocking the industrial grill. I had everything I needed for one already at base, so I crafted one and placed it just outside my front door. And I then grabbed a bunch of meat from Blueberry and started cooking it. I then bred my megalos again and stored the egg away in the preserving bin.
Yeah, I think it's about time that I expand my base a little bit here. Especially if I'm breeding a megalo army, it's gonna need more space.
So I checked what I would need for another behemoth gate in the smithy. And then I got on Sack to go farm a little bit more wood and some thatch on my iguanodon. That being said, I got on my crab and took Ank out to do some overtime for me. Using the resources I just got, I made another behemoth gate and gateway. I then picked up 2 of my gates and waited for an earthquake to end. I swear these things always have a 100% chance to spawn while building. Anyways, once it passed, I placed down all 3 of the gates.
It's gonna be a cursed placement, but Gotta do what you gotta do.
I then applied the steampunk skins and made some more stone structures to fill in the gap under the third behemoth gate.
Alright, well it's cursed, but you know, so there's this whole video. That's more space for me though, more real estate.
And with a small base upgrade done, it was time to go spelunking again. More specifically, I wanted to retrieve the second artifact.
So there's 3 caves, and I've already done one. But one of the other ones is the shadow cave, which is actually pretty tough to get through. But there's one I should just be able to sneak through with blueberry, with some hazmat and just staying invisible in the rock tree.
So I jumped down into the blue zone and glided right through the radiation zone where I found the blue drop with a ring, which didn't have much in terms of loot in it, to be honest.
If I remember correctly, the cave should just be back here somewhere.
And I was correct. I found the entrance, went invisible, and began sneaking through.
Thing is, I don't really know where the artifact is in here.
But after a bit of looking around, I spotted something that could actually lead me to it.
Ooh, that's looking promising. Oh, it's right there.
I revealed myself and got attacked by a few seekers, so I took care of them and all the other irrelevant creatures before grabbing the artifact just before the end of the day.
Yeah, well, let me out here.
Once I made it out of the cave on day 59, I found a yellow drop right outside. So I killed all the threats around and checked out the loot.
Oh, I'll take hard poly.
And out of nowhere, a Reaper Queen emerged from the ground, so I immediately pulled out my spyglass to see its level, but it was pretty bad. So I then returned back home and sorted out my inventory and grabbed the megalo eggs from the preserving bin. I also unlocked the feeding trough engram, but I needed raw metal to craft it, so I flew down into the blue zone to get some. And back at base, I made the trough and placed it under my air conditioners. And while going back up the ramp, I noticed something was off about my megalos.
Oh!
So I gave them a new home, a better place to say. Anyways, I threw out the 3 megalo eggs I had on me and waited for them to hatch. Then I fed them all and filled the trough with the rest of the raw meat and I imprinted the babies. And with the 3 megalos growing, I named them all boss and I let my perfect breeders mate once again. Now moving on, I want to make a fridge to store the eggs in, so I started crafting electronics. And in the meantime, I flew down to the blue zone and farmed up some crystal for the fridge. And once I returned, I grabbed some metal from the forge and I finally made the fridge. I then placed it next to the grill and stored the egg away, and I also transferred everything from my preserving bin into it. I then farmed the bushes inside my compound while waiting for my breeders to pop out another egg for me. And once the boss megalos were done growing up, I used the female one to speed up egg production. That being said, I also moved my male boss megalos off the platform to make space for the newcomers. And I waited for more eggs to pop, and once I had a few, I grabbed one of my breeder megalos and went out on a little side quest.
I want to get some meat here, just so I can feed these babies.
I ran outside and started killing everything that was made out of meat, which was everything. And once I had a decent amount of it, I returned back home, and I threw out 6 megalo eggs and waited for them to hatch. I then named all of them boss and fed them and started imprinting them, as well as also collecting new eggs for my breeders. But unfortunately, one of the babies requested kibble as its imprinting needs, so I had to turn it into food. Anyhow, I continued hatching and raising my boss fighting army of megalosauruses till the end of the day. On day 61, I moved the grown megalos down by the behemoth gate and went out to get more raw meat for the new babies. But I almost lost this megalo when I took on a pack of ravagers.
No, it might be cooked. I hate ravagers. I hate ravagers.
Luckily, they all died and there was a healing plant right in front of me, so I healed up with whatever raw meat that I had and continued killing things like diplos and some parasaurs. And back home, I threw out 4 more eggs and then collected more while waiting for them to hatch. And then I also did some more fatherly duties like feeding, naming, and imprinting the newborns.
Cooked fish meat? I can probably do that.
Unfortunately, this guy wanted kibble for the imprint, so he didn't make it. Moving on, I then got on Blueberry and made a quick drive down by the river next to my base for some fish meat. Then I cooked it and imprinted the 3rd megalo as well. I then moved them off the platform and threw out 6 more eggs, and I got pretty lucky with the amount of megalos that popped.
Oh my god, triplets. Oh, dude, no more triplets?
And the majority of them wanted to go on a walk for imprint, so I whistled them one by one and watched as they all got 100% imprinting.
Well, that's all my boss ones. I'm gonna do a meat run, just leave it at that.
I hopped on another megalo from the bunch and went out to the river to gather more meat. Spinos were easy to kill and gave a pretty decent amount. I also threw hands with a stego that I underestimated a little bit.
Oh my god, it's wrecking me.
So I stopped by a healing plant and waited, but this ravager was not a fan of me healing my megalo.
Bold move pulling up to me on a... Oh, never mind, I just lost so much aura. What I meant to say was bold move pulling up to me when I'm at a healing plant.
With my aura down and my health up, I returned to the fight and spotted a crab literally committing war crimes on a sunny day.
That's what you get for killing children.
Ignore the fact that I rushed to eat his corpse as soon as it died. It was done in the name of progress, of course. Anyhow, I returned back home and moved the feeding trough closer to the megalo army and filled it up. I started lining up all the megalos on day 62 as they were all grown now.
How many megalos do I have? Oh my god, they already ate through all that meat.
So I counted all of them to see, as I had a suspicion that I raised more than I actually had to.
20. Okay, I've got like one extra, because I'm gonna need a rock drake. Dope.
And I put whatever points I had all into health. And moving on next, I want to go to the boss fight terminal as I want to see what tributes I would actually need to start the fight. So I put on my trusty hazmat suit and hopped on the back of Blueberry and descended right down into the radiation zone.
Is it back here? Is this a drake den? Nah, it is back here.
I then looked into the terminal and into the alpha tribute requirements, and honestly, it wasn't too bad.
Oh, okay, nameless venom. Reaper pheromone gland, so I've got to kill Reapers, basilisk scales, and then, yeah, the alpha stuff. It's honestly not terrible, just some farming.
Speaking of Reapers, I actually want to get one for myself, as it's just something you gotta do when you're playing Aberration.
I'd like to hatch my other two rock drakes as well, see if I can't get any good ones. The ones I did hatch weren't very good.
So I climbed back home and did a little bit of research on Reapers. I wanted to repair all of my hazmat suits as well, but I was also low on crystals, so I grabbed Ink with my crab and got back to farming. However, there were a few bozos in the way, so I had to take care of them first. And by take care of them, I mean pick them up and launch them into orbit. Anyhow, once they were dealt with, I farmed a bunch of crystal that I then used to fix up all my hazmat stuff back at base. And I also grabbed the 2 other rock drake eggs and threw them out at the hatchery, but due to the spacing of my air conditioners, they weren't incubating just yet.
I'm gonna have to make another AC or 2 if I want to make them. Might as well.
So I made some more electronics that I used to craft another 2 air conditioners, and I placed them down in kind of a U shape, but the egg was still not incubating.
Really?
So I had to move some of the other ACs closer as well. And while waiting for those to hatch, I leveled up my megalos a little bit, and when the eggs finally popped, I checked out their stats.
Yeah, these drakes kind of suck.
Since I had no need for the extra ACs anymore, I moved one of them into my base and one next to the grill so I wouldn't be scorching hot while standing nearby. Anyways, I imprinted one of the rock drakes, but the other one needs nameless venom, so I saddled up one of my megalos and ventured into the blue zone to get some. Later on, I fed the other drake as well and looked at the stats, but they still weren't as good as blueberries.
Yeah, no, I think blueberries are my best option.
I started day 63 off by restocking on my parachutes, and I also want to make another generator, so I crafted the electronics for it.
Oh, I already had another one, bro.
It was about time to go out and get me a Reaper, as I basically have everything already. So I cryoed up one of my megalos and picked up the cryo fridge. I then put on my hazmat, but I actually remembered something.
Yeah, crossbow, so I can just shoot off the back of my drake and get the Reaper's attention. Saw it on a comment. Who knows if it'll actually work, but we'll see.
So I made a few arrows and headed out into the red zone, and I didn't have to look around for too long before a Reaper actually found me before I found it.
Oh my god, dude. That scared the crap out of me.
So I climbed back up the wall and used my spyglass to see the levels of the Reapers that were actually nearby, and there was actually 2 of them, being a level 45 and a level 80.
So I could try and kill them. I really don't want to fight 2 at the same time though. Seems like a bad idea. I think I'll just look for a high level.
I soon found another Reaper, but it was another disappointment.
Yeah, roar, you ain't that scary. You're level 25.
And a level 45 right in front of it as well. While flying over to a different part of the red zone, I came across a purple drop with a ring.
Crazy bear saddle and black helmet. Okay.
Anyways, I arrived at the place that I always used to tame Reapers back on ASC. And at first, I only found a few low levels, but I continued and found a level 105 and a level 90. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's getting better.
Like, this area looks pretty cool, dude. I won't lie.
But it still didn't have what I was looking for, unfortunately.
I think I'll call it a day in the red zone. Come back tomorrow for another day. See what we got.
That being said, I returned back home, and I also checked on my gas collector on the way and grabbed all the gas balls and stored them away in a storage box along with my hazmat suit just before the end of the day. Day 64, as promised, it's time to return back down into the red zone, so I cryoed my megalo once again and got my hazmat and flew right back. And I stopped at a helium plant and threw down my cryo fridge and generator and waited for the cooldown. And I also picked up a Z seed while waiting. And once it was up, I threw out my megalo and waited for it to heal for a little bit and then headed out to cause some violence.
Let's go kill a Reaper or 2.
While running around, I noticed the Prolovia leaping towards me at Mach 5, which led to me unleashing the most manly scream of 2024.
Make sure that's on neutral.
And another one thought it was slick camping so close to the first one.
I knew it.
Thankfully, I just put my megalo on neutral, so it took care of business rather quickly. I then came across another Prolovia, so I decided to test something.
Alright, I heard if you look up with the megalo, Prolovia can't hit you off. Is this true? No.
Anyways, I kept killing my way through until I came across my first Reaper.
Oh, there's a Reaper. 45. Ah, he sees me. Alright, time to post up. Time to post up. You ain't got nothing on me.
And even this low level put up quite a bit of a fight. I was down to 6k health when it died, but I got a ton of experience from it. And more importantly, I also got Reaper pheromone glands, which I would need for the boss fight. So with that, I returned back to the healing plant and got my megalo back up to full health before cryoing it and picking up my structures. I did a few more chores around base, like leveling up my megalos and organizing my tames before the end of day 64.
Alright, new day. Day 65. I want to get the Shadow Cave artifact. Honestly, I bet it's going to be super easy, just like the last one. So, I can just kind of invisible rock drake all the way through it. I also want to get some artifact pedestals, and I'd like to pretty up my base after that, because yeah, it's not looking too good right now. It needs some work.
That being said, I grabbed my cryo fridge, a generator, and I cryoed a megalo and headed out to the shadow cave on Blueberry. And on my way over, I came across a purple drop which had some polymer and simple rifle bullets for me. I then arrived at the lake and I waited on one of the blue crystals for stamina. And then I went invisible and swam down into the cave. But unfortunately, Blueberry was too fat to fit through the actual entrance, so I had to place my cryo fridge down and wait for the timer once again. And once it was up, I threw out the drake, but I didn't get as far as I quickly came across yet another gap I couldn't fit through. And I made the mistake of not bringing enough gas to power the generator multiple times over, so I had to leave and I gotta come back and return with more. So after waiting for another century for the cryo cooldown, I threw out the drake and returned back home.
Need to make more gas.
I then made some in one of the forges and headed back out to the cave, and once inside I parachuted back down and went through the choke point.
Alright, I'm gonna throw my drake out here.
I then threw out Blueberry, went invisible, and jumped down into the cave. I then swam through the first water tunnel. I had to kill a few eels to get through, but nothing aggroed me while I was recovering stamina. And I wanted to continue deeper into the cave, but the other eels were blocking the way, so I had to deal with them. And that led me to place my cryo fridge down once again, and I threw out my megalo and went full Doomslayer mode. And once everything was taken care of, I continued into the second water tunnel of the cave.
This looks like where I need to go. Yeah, isn't the artifact's right there?
I climbed the structure and grabbed the artifact and dipped out of there just as day 65 came to a close. I picked up my megalo and the structures and then fought my way out of the cave, and right outside was a drop waiting for me.
Purple drop right there?
But the loot inside was actually insulting, so I just returned back home.
Awesome. All 3 artifacts.
And now, with all the artifacts collected, it was time to make a nice display for them, but I didn't have enough obsidian to craft the 3 pedestals. So I got my hazmat back on and then flew down into the red zone once again to farm some. And later on, back at base, I made the 3 pedestals, and I replaced my dinosaur gate that I had on my base before. At first, I wanted the pedestals in front of the seam forge, but then changed my mind and lined them up next to the fridge. I then looked into the Ingram page and I read the description of the Tesla coil, and in conclusion,
yeah, I want one.
So I fired up the fabricator and started producing electronics once again. And while those were being made, I got on my crab and picked up ink to go farm crystal, which as usual included a little bit of pest control. I returned home on day 67 and I got one of my boss megalos to farm some polymer in the form of oversized crabs, of course. And a couple of crabs later, I had my Tesla coil crafted. And I then grabbed my other generator and I placed both the Tesla coil and the Jenny right outside my gates.
Alright, I'm gonna lead something over here.
And it didn't take long for me to get spotted by a yeeling, the perfect culprit for my test.
Oh my god, there's one right there. Okay, Yeeling defense system. This better work. Yeeling defense system. Oh! Yeeling defense system! It does like no damage.
Yeah, I was not impressed with it, so I tried the volatile attack mode instead. I lured in another yeeling, but this attack mode was even more disappointing.
7?
I quickly adjusted it to the last setting being bright, but that was just a short stun, so basically the charge attack mode did the most damage, but it was too weak to even deal with a single yeeling.
Yeah, that thing is terrible. Maybe if you have like an army of them, but they're so expensive.
So with that major disappointment aside, I actually wanted to go out and do something more productive. More specifically, getting a Reaper. So step 1 of getting a Reaper is preparations, of course. I had to construct a small box where I could then give birth to the baby once I actually get impregnated. And I wanted to make one, but I was missing stone, and just before I went out to actually get some, I noticed something.
Oh, it's 90% night. Ooh, okay. I actually do need to go to the surface. There's been no surface drops the past few times I've gone, but I really need there to be drops because I need blueprints for a shotgun at least. Maybe even megalo saddles.
So I did my quick stone run with my doed and crafted and constructed the Reaper birthing chamber, and then I sorted out my stuff. Even though I've been scammed by the surface a couple of times already, I was still determined to go back there and get drops. So I got on Blueberry and went out to the surface entrance.
Definitely on fire.
So I waited around until the fire disappeared, but once I actually went out there was still no drops in sight. So I waited around for a little bit to see if any were perhaps to spawn in, but no. Absolutely nothing appeared, so I flew back inside and tried a different surface entrance.
Dude.
Even though there was not a single drop in sight. So I returned home on day 68 and I equipped my hazmat suit as it was time to go down and get a Reaper for real this time. I flew straight into the red zone and started looking for a high level.
Oh my god, there's 2. Oh, they both suck.
But after just one more low level, I came across this one.
130. I'm like that. Oh no, he's going straight in the elemental water.
So I jumped down to it and I led the low level Reaper down even deeper. I then killed a rock drake and I went to grab the 130's attention again, and I led it over to a small amount of land that I had to work with.
Oh my god, there's another. A 125? That's great. but I only wanted one.
So I had to be very strategic about this. I wanted to lead the 125 off a cliff, so I would only be left with the 130. But when I tried to get its attention, the other one also came over, so I couldn't really lead it off. And on my second try, I flew across to the other side of the lake, which actually separated the two reapers. So I climbed up to safety and placed down my cryo fridge and generator.
What? No, it's gonna break my stuff.
Once I let it away, I finally threw out my Megalo, but while I was cryoing Blueberry, it pulled a Houdini and vanished.
Where'd my Megalo go?
It was actually just below me fighting my Reaper though.
Well, that one's dead.
So I had no other option but then to return back home and get yet another Megalo. However, I still had to wait for cryo sickness, and while waiting, I got attacked by a Seeker, which was easy to take down, but soon after that, a Reaper appeared.
Oh my god. The great escape. The great escape.
Thankfully, it was stupid and fell right down so I could return to my cryo fridge and throw out Blueberry again.
Yeah, I'm out of here, dude.
Back at base, I made a new saddle and I cryoed another one of my boss Megalos. So to actually get this Reaper, I'm gonna need to make a trap for it, as there's way too many Reapers in this area right now. And that's gonna make it basically impossible to get impregnated. So on day 69, I set out to farm up a Reaper trap. I had a design in mind, I just lacked a few resources to actually craft it. So I got on my crab again and took my doed out for a spin. And while farming, I came across more Ravagers, so I dealt with them before they aggroed my doed.
Works like a charm.
Anyhow, with the stone acquired, it was time to farm wood. I picked up sack with my crab and jumped outside, but I was greeted by some not so friendly culprits. But I got rid of the ground force and I picked sack back up and left, as I was not about to wait for this yearling to land. So I farmed some more wood and returned home to craft all the structures for the Reaper trap. But I ran out of thatch, so I got back on my crab and I grabbed ink and farmed just a little bit. And with the thatch acquired, I made a bunch of stone pillars.
Got all my stuff. I think I can tame a Reaper now.
But before heading out, I repaired some of my hazmat gear that I had and I headed back out on Blueberry.
Is there a yellow drop in there? Bruh.
Anyhow, I returned to the Reapers I marked on my map from my last trip, but I had to take care of the Seekers first, so I perched on top of a rock and started biting at them all. And once they were taken care of, I found the 130 Reaper again, and I let it down deeper to try and single it out from the rest. But while doing so, I came across this.
150? Oh my god.
But more Reapers just kept emerging from the ground, so I had to be quick with this trap. I flew away to de-aggro all of them and then returned and started building the trap just before the end of the day. I finished construction of the trap on day 70, so I went out to grab the Reaper's attention. And it chased me down right into the trap, and while tanking the hits, I placed down the rest of the stone beams to fully trap the Reaper in.
I think I got it.
And after dealing with the dangers around me, I placed down the generator and cryo fridge. And once the cooldown was up, I threw out my Megalo and started throwing hands with the Reaper. And after not too long, I had it down to about a third of its health.
Almost cooked already, dude.
I then took a few more bites with the Megalo, then swapped back on Blueberry to get it really low.
Now it's like a one shot.
So I waited on my Drake until it would do its thing.
What's got me? I'm in the ground? Let me on.
And just like that, I have a Reaper, but unfortunately I folded when I killed the Reaper and the acid from its corpse actually killed me.
Okay, I should have the baby though, right?
I respawned back at base still pregnant, and since I actually killed the Reaper, I also had all 75 levels for the baby as well.
How did we do that? Total 150. I am him and a half.
I crafted another Megalo saddle and went out to get raw meat for the baby.
I didn't know Ruby Raptors were on Ab. Or if you need to tame one. To level my Megalos. Probably shouldn't have killed that, to be honest.
Anyhow, I had the raw meat I needed, so I returned back home and got ready to become a father.
Am I looking bigger? Yeah, I've got me a little belly.
Well, I had to deal with some intruders while waiting, but after that, I got in my box and a baby Reaper was soon to be brought into this world.
Take my life. Oh, exactly on cue.
I waited for the baby to grow a little bit.
Gotta wait till it's a juvenile, so it's not a ravenous little creature.
And once it calmed down, I opened up the box and imprinted it.
Ooh, it's like a yellow color. It's crazy looking.
Reaper aside, I still had to go on a rescue mission to get Blueberry and the Megalo out of the red zone. But I was missing some polymer and crystal for a new hazmat suit, so I got to work. I made a pickaxe, got on another rock drake, and killed a crab not too far from my base. He took a beating like a champ without any resistance, and after that, I farmed a little bit of crystal and returned home to craft the suit. I then kitted up and headed back out to get my tames. Once back out there, I picked up the generator, the cryo fridge, and I cryoed both of my tames, and then picked up the trap as well and returned back home just before the end of the day. My Reaper grew up on the morning of day 71, so I first force-fed it some meat to heal it up a little bit so it wouldn't get clapped by yearlings right outside my base. And once it had a sufficient amount of HP, I jumped out of my base and went on a testing run.
How much damage is this guy doing? I mean, not bad. My Megalos are kind of stronger right now. This thing definitely has more health.
Anyhow, I posted up next to a healing plant and force-fed the Reaper all the meat I had, which brought it up to about half HP. Then I went towards the river to kill spiders for some quick XP.
Okay, why is there nothing for me to kill? Alright, well, since I can't level my Reaper, I'm gonna go back to base and look for an Oviraptor. Still have no idea what I'm gonna do for a good shotgun or saddle, since drops on the surface straight up just don't spawn. And the shotgun's like the most important thing.
I guess that's a future problem for future me though, so I continued my way home. I did make a quick stop to name the Reaper as well.
Yeah, I don't really know. Whatever.
I took care of some uninvited guests in front of my base, then did some quick megalo reorganizing. I made a small circle with the females so I could get more megalo eggs going. These weren't gonna have a bright future though, as they would be used to level up my existing megalo army. After the first batch of 4 eggs dropped, I picked them up and headed out to look for an oviraptor on Blueberry.
Oh, there's one. Of course, it's in Yeeling Forest, bro.
There were actually 2 oviraptors, but the Yeeling kept shooting one of them, so I took out my bolos and waited for it to make a fatal mistake, landing on a tree. I soon found one of the oviraptors that ran off, so I knocked it out. I then gave it 2 of the eggs and got back on Blueberry to take care of the other Yeelings in the area. And after taking care of a couple more Yeelings, the oviraptor tamed, so I cryoed it and returned back home, where I then put it straight to use by parking it right below my megalo breeding circle. Crazy sentence, okay. I started day 72 off by organizing a little bit. First, I cleaned up the mess of megalos I had next to my gate by lining them all up again. And next, I grabbed one of my storage boxes and I put it next to my artifact pedestals. This one I would use to store all the boss tributes. And with that done, I wanted to get some more boss tributes, starting off with rock drake feathers. I grabbed my hazmat suit and flew down into the radiation zone to pay a visit to our feathery friends, and I got like 5 feathers before I returned back to base.
I gotta wait for 90% night again, and I'm praying drops spawn. If they don't spawn, I have no chance of beating Alpha Rockwell. There's just no chance.
While waiting for that to come around, I wanted to do some more base improvements and look into some of the new items as well. So I got on my crab and grabbed ink, and I then farmed a bunch of thatch that should hopefully last me a little bit. Later on, I was moving my resources into the smithy when I got attacked by yet another Yeeling that somehow managed to get inside my compound. So I took care of it with the Reaper, and then I crafted another behemoth gate to cover up the gap where these little rascals kept getting through. I placed the gate down on day 73, and of course I applied the skin, and since it was 50% night, I actually headed out to the surface entrance. And on my way over, I spotted an old friend of mine.
Barry, you're still alive. What? Not here for you though.
So I went outside, but once again, there were still no drops in sight anywhere.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what I'm gonna do.
And I didn't have much time left to ponder about possible ways to replace a good shotgun, so I gotta get to work quick. I returned back home to finish upgrading my defenses. I then made some extra stone walls, which I then used to cover up the big gap between the behemoth gate and the tree. And using the Reaper, I was able to place walls on top of the existing ones. Then I used climbing picks and temporary ceilings to apply the skins.
Alright, the way I see it... Okay, why are you in my base? Hold up. Trying to do an epic monologue type thing. You are not invited, buddy. Okay, as I was saying... Let me restart this. Since surface drops don't work on my world for some reason, there's 2 ways I see it. I can start the alpha boss fight and pretty much accept defeat. I can go down with glory, but I can try my best. Or I can do the beta boss fight and have a pretty decent chance to win. But there's less honor and glory in that.
So I did some more chores around base, like making another 2 storage boxes and organizing resources while I considered both options, and eventually I made a decision.
Alright, there's really only one way I can do this. We're going alpha, baby. Go big or go home. Even if I gotta kill Rockwell with a primitive shotgun, I'm gonna try my best.
That being said, I had a lot of preparation that needed to be done before getting the rest of the boss tributes. Starting off with leveling up my megalo army, specifically health so they would have time to heal up while I do other things. And to make the leveling process more efficient, I went out to look for a Lystro.
There's one. There's Ravagers. Take everything on.
I took care of most threats in the area and then fed the Lystro. I say most threats because this guy appeared while I was distracted.
Oh!
But I took care of him and the Lystro was mine. And also, I named him, but don't ask questions. You should know by now.
You already know.
Back at base, I threw him out on my hatching platform and began the leveling process with the first batch of megalo eggs.
See how many levels we gained from 6.
The answer was 32. I leveled the health up to be around 21k and then pumped the rest of it into melee. I repeated this cycle with all my megalos, including the females that I used to breed for eggs. This process took the entirety of day 74 and the first half of day 75.
Alright, that should finally be all of my megalos leveled. I think I'm gonna get a few more babies and I'll level my Reaper as well before I'm finished.
So I waited for another batch of eggs to be produced before throwing those out of the hatchery and committing unspeakable crimes against nature. It was all for a good cause though, as my Reaper got a bunch of levels from it. And now with my megalo army and my Reaper fully leveled, it was time to get back on the tribute grind. I grabbed one of my boss megalos and equipped my hazmat suit and headed out to find another Reaper because I still need a few more pheromone glands.
But where am I?
I did get a bit lost, but eventually I found the low level Reaper, so I glided over to safety and I placed down my generator and cryo fridge. And after the ridiculous ridiculously long timer, I threw on my Megalo and got to work.
You stay there, Mr. Blueberry. I've got to go handle business.
I threw hands with the Reaper Queen until she collapsed into toxic smoke, giving me 5 more Reaper glands. Picked up my stuff on day 76 and returned back home. With the Reaper pheromone glands acquired, it was time to move on to the basilisk scales. And I didn't have to go far from home to actually find the first culprit.
Oh, it's stuck in the wall?
I quit my hazmat suit just to be safe and munched it to death along with a crab that wanted in on the action.
Gonna keep the hazmat suit on, because I think it protects me if they spit their acid.
Anyhow, I followed the river and found 2 more basilisks, before going to Portal, which is a notorious playground for these oversized snakes.
Oh, yep, I knew it.
But there were only 2 basilisk portals, but hey, that's better than nothing. So I looked around the outskirts of the green zone before jumping down to the blue zone to continue the search there. But I only found 1 more snake before I returned back to base as the day came to an end. I resumed the hunt on day 77 though, as I just needed 2 more scales and the alpha fang of course. So I started off by going along the river again. I looked around the fertile lake, the redwoods, but the only thing I found was this purple drop with some Lazarus chowder and C4, neither of which that I needed. I then went back to Portal to see if at least one of them had respawned, but to no avail.
Not having much luck finding basilisks. Looks like I got them all back on day 76. Gotta wait for them to respawn, I guess. It's 90% night. I might sit over here and check the surface, I guess, one more time.
Arriving at the surface entrance, it was still scorching hot out there, so I had to wait.
Could be safe to go out.
But to absolutely nobody's surprise, there were exactly 0 drops, so I returned back home defeated. As day 78 rolled around, I got back on Blueberry to go out and circle the green zone again. But I cut my trip short and headed back home to do something else.
Maybe it's about time I craft that robot guy. See what he does. Sir, I don't even know how to say his name, I'm not gonna lie. It's just letters and numbers.
I looked into the fabricator to see the requirements, and let's just say it wasn't the cheapest of crafts.
Robot man. Man, he's expensive.
But I didn't have enough electronics, so it was time to go farm some more silica pearls. I grabbed my cryo fridge and the angler, and I also crafted another generator and then flew and headed out to the lake on Blueberry. I then placed my cryo fridge down and waited for about a decade for the cooldown. And once I was ready, I noticed something was actually missing.
Oh my god, I didn't bring my scuba.
So I made a quick trip back home to grab my tank and flippers. And when I returned, I threw out my angler, leveled it up a bit into its melee, and then started biting the floor in hopes of finding pearls. I really don't know why they decided to make pearls look just like rocks in ASA. It is unnecessarily hard to see what is a pearl and what is a rock.
Oh, these are just rocks.
Anyhow, I did manage to find a ton of silica pearls towards the swamp in the shallow water. So I filled out my pockets and packed up and returned back home, where I then grabbed some metal from the forge and started making a bunch of electronics.
Okay, so that's all the electronics crafting. What else do I need for this guy? Gonna need the black pearls.
Those weren't going to be an issue to farm though, as there's plenty at the bottom of the radiation zone. So while the electronics were being produced, I kitted up and flew down there to get some. Thankfully, the black pearls were easy to see, so I grabbed all that I need, plus some extra for the stopwatch, which I also wanted to craft. And while picking up the pearls, I accidentally grabbed some of the polymer off one of the plants, so I whipped out my sickle and started swinging.
Plants just give polymer. Oh my god. Holy polymer farm.
And they gave me more polymer than I'd ever need, but sadly I would still have to get some hard polymer to craft the robot guy because the fabricator didn't have enough inventory slots. So I got to work on day 79. I got on my crab and went out to farm stone with a doed. And taking care of ravagers while trying to farm has become a common occurrence, but throwing them away with the crab never gets old. With the stone farmed, I returned back to base and stored it in my mortar and pestles. Then I headed out on one of my boss megalos to get the chitin. I killed a couple of crabs and a scorpion, which got me a bunch of chitin, and then I started turning it into paste. And with that checked off the list, I got on my crab once again and grabbed Eng to go farm the crystal.
I got crystal and flint farm. Should be able to craft up the chemistry bench with these resources I have now.
I made a bit of spark powder and put it in the fabricator, and the chemistry bench was made just like that. I then picked up my old forges and the campfire and placed it down.
Base definitely isn't that pretty in this 100 days, but you know, it's functional. Function over aesthetics, I guess.
Anyhow, I moved the resources into the chemistry bench and started mass producing paste. Making the chemistry bench set me back a bit on electronics, so I had to make new ones for the robot guy. And I emptied the fabricator as much as I could, but I would still have to craft hard polymer for the robot. In the meantime though, I got back on Blueberry and headed out to the surface once again, and you can guess how many drops I actually found.
Yep, no drops. Gonna be the enemy, dude. Can't get good stuff.
So back to farming I go. I did a quick stone run with my crab and doed just before the end of the day. I made some more cementing paste on the morning of day 80, and I had basically everything ready for the robot guy except the hard polymer. So I took whatever organic polymer I had filled up the fabricator with to see how much hard polymer I would actually need.
I've got to farm like 800 raw obsidian, maybe even more.
That being said, I got my hazmat suit and made a brand new iron pickaxe and headed out. I did make a quick stop by a purple drop though, and it contained exactly what I expected from it.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing.
So I continued down into the radiation depths and began farming obsidian while taking care of the occasional threat in the area.
Oh, I got it. Sickle, sickle, sickle. Didn't even stand a chance. Oh my god, there's a Megalania literally right there. Wow, my sickle. This thing is so good.
Anyhow, I farmed just above 800 obsidian, which should be enough by my calculations. So I climbed out of there and returned back home. I grabbed all the obsidian and then threw it into the fabricator and started making the hard polymer. And while those were being crafted, I got back on one of my boss megalos and killed a crab for just a bit more chitin, which I then turned into paste.
Actually, that's probably not gonna be enough to kill that other crab. Click on someone your own size.
With that, I should have everything I need to make the robot guy. So I waited around base for a bit more before getting back to working on other things.
In the meantime, I'm gonna farm a bunch of wood for this forge, because I make shotgun bullets I need for the boss fight. You know, I've got a primitive shotgun. The drops don't work on the surface. I'm sorry, I'm tweaking out.
After my little rant, I got back on sack and began munching down on trees in the area. But Crab had other plans for me as he picked me right off sack.
Oh!
But unfortunately for the crab, he forgot just a minor detail. I have an overpowered sickle, so I chopped him up and continued my grind. I then transferred everything into the steam forge. And of course, I had to grab a piece of element to power it.
Sir, that's some good charcoal production.
And finally, on day 81, the polymer finished crafting and I made the robot.
Unassembled Sir 5 armor. 500 pounds? Oh my god. Almost weighs as much as your mom.
I placed down this heavy piece of metal and looked into its settings.
So, how do you work?
It could follow me like any other tame. And it had a harvest option, a butler option, and it could even do this.
What are you smacking your head?
And I could pick him up and call him back at any point, which is pretty cool. But an even cooler detail about this bot was it could speak. I had to turn on my NPC volume in settings and then change its modes.
This guy speaks. Harvest?
Oh, yes. Mindless drudgery may be just the thing to curb my homicidal tendencies.
I threw a cryopod on the ground while I was in butler mode to see if it would do anything or, pick it up. I don't really know what it's supposed to do. But it kind of just stood there looking at me. I honestly had no idea what this guy could actually do, so I just left him there for the time being. And I looked back into the fabricator to make a stopwatch. I was missing some crystal and electronics, so I started crafting those and went out to get the crystal.
I have to do some research on that robot guy. See what he does. Alright, Ink, where are you? Wait, can I pick him up?
Enough tomfoolery, back to farming crystal.
I still need to tame a yeeling. I don't need to, but honestly, I don't even want to. I hate yeelings. I think I'll just declare war on all yeelings. Oh my god. Speaking of,
I slammed it against the ground a few times, then farmed the crystal nodes around and returned back home to craft the stopwatch. And the cool thing about this is that it could kinda bring you back in time, or that's how it's advertised at least. I used it to place a portal right at my base. Then I walked off a bit and used it again, but...
And then I press right click, and I go back. I did not go back.
And it had a cooldown between uses as well. Moving on, as my steam forge was still powered and I was running a little bit low on metal, I decided to go out and farm some with Hank. But on my way out, I came across some resistance as usual, in the form of Ravagers. I took care of them, but Hank almost died in the process, so I jumped back to base and started smelting the metal. I then crafted a second smithy that I would use to craft all my Megalo saddles for my Megalo army.
Right there. This hurts my soul, dude. I'm gonna have to craft like 20 primitive megalo saddles. Emphasis on the primitive.
I made 13 saddles and looked into my tribute storage box. I was still missing a few things like an Alpha Reaper barb, 2 Basilisk scales, and an Alpha Basilisk fang. Anyhow, I crafted the rest of the saddles and equipped them on my megalos just before the end of day 81. I started day 82 off by making a small quality of life improvement. I brought irrigation to my base by using a water intake, reservoir, and the tap, that way I could fill up my canteens without having to go down to the river every time. And by this point, the basilisk I was hunting before had probably all respawned by now, so I got on Blueberry to go out and hunt down the last 2. I first checked out Portal, but I didn't find anything, so I went to the edge of the green zone. I then flew down into the blue zone, where I was quickly distracted by a yellow drop that had nothing to use for me. But behind it was another yellow drop, and this one, on the other hand, actually had something kinda useful.
Oh, life-saving shotgun and megalo saddle.
It was nothing to celebrate for, but at least it's not a primitive shotgun, so I'm gonna consider it a blessing at this point. I also found a better roll rat saddle and a purple drop, so I returned home and equipped it back on sack. And I also gave the better megalo saddle to one of my boss megalos. I then left base again to continue my search for basilisks, and I finally came across one on day 83. So I ripped its scales right off and continued looking for the last one, which I found shortly after.
Oh, dude, this thing's kind of melting me.
But I clapped it and got the final scale. Now, I just had to find an alpha one for the fang. So I returned back to the starting area where I did find another basilisk, just not an alpha.
I don't even know why I'm killing this. I've already got enough scales. I'm just hunting for an alpha.
But killing it could potentially free up another spawn for an alpha somewhere else, so I did.
The man got to do to find an alpha basilisk. I feel like I remember having trouble find one on the open operation too. Some things never change, I guess.
The search continued on day 84 when I peeked over to the blue zone and spotted another snake.
Alpha, perchance? No.
But of course, I got taunted by the Ark gods when I came across an Alpha Carcinos.
It's one an Alpha Basilisk.
But I stopped searching for the time being, and returned back home to start farming shotgun shells instead. So of course, you already know, I got on Grave Crab and grabbed ink and farmed a bunch of flint and stone, which I then started converting into spark powder and then gunpowder in my chemistry bench.
That's a lot of gunpowder. Too bad my shotgun has 114 damage. Oh, that hurts my soul.
Anyhow, I used the smithy I made earlier on to start producing simple bullets as well as shotgun shells. And I also made some more electronics for a holoscope. On day 85, I transferred a ton of gunpowder into the smithy and queued a bunch of shotgun shells to craft. And in the meantime, I headed back out to look for an Alpha Basilisk. And very soon, I found one buried, so I got closer to investigate.
That one looks... Oh my god, it's an Alpha. Yes, sir. Don't know if I can kill that with my rock drake.
So I flew back home to swap out the drake for a megalo, and then returned back to assert dominance over the plus-size Titanoboa. I got rid of the ravagers in the area and then started biting the basilisk.
That scribe, help me.
But the giant burrito stood no chance when I started biting its head, dealing over 1600 damage per bite.
There we go.
So I returned back home and deposited the fang in the storage box and kept up the bullet crafting in the smithy.
Okay. Time for some medical brews.
Looking at the cooker engram, I was missing quite a few resources. So I started off by crafting more cementing paste and going out to farm more stone with the doed. And I would also need to farm more metal for both the cooker and bullets, so I grabbed ink and jumped back down into the blue zone to farm it. And I farmed as much metal as my crab could carry. And I then returned back to base on day 86. I started smelting the metal and I looked into what I was still missing.
Metal and oil. I think I'll make a trip over to the Trilobite River.
So I got on my Reaper and headed out, but I was quickly stopped at my front door by a Spino that wanted the smoke, and of course, I delivered. Anyhow, I got to the river and started my killing spree.
I think after nearly 100 days, I'd have a better way of farming oil, but...
We make do with what we got, I guess, so I killed everything in the river until I had a decent amount of oil.
That should be enough oil.
I deposited it back at base and then went out to get polymer. I killed 3 crabs and then brought the poly back to the fabricator. And I also grabbed some metal and then I finally crafted the cooker. And I placed it next to the steam forge and put whatever narcotics I had into it. I then used Mr. Bear to farm tinter berries. And I also went around and looked in most of my tames to collect any spoiled meat they had. I also found a sword in one of their inventories, so I checked it out with my sword skin on it.
Pretty cool looking sword skin, if I do say so myself. Oh my god, I'm in the...
Anyhow, I started producing my first few medical brews, and I also moved a few air conditioners over to the cooker as it was really hot standing next to the steam forge as well. I began day 87 with more berry farming. At first, I went on with Mr. Bear, but then I swapped over to the roar raft to see if it was any better.
No, this thing's definitely not better.
So I swapped over to the iguanodon, and I got a bunch of berries with him, but I also brought in some uninvited guests over to my base.
Really nice if I could farm tinter berries without getting bombed by healings.
At least I got to try out my new boomstick though.
Sorry you had to witness that, Cody.
Anyhow, I did 2 more berry runs with Mr. Bear, and I got a ton of tinto berries. I then threw them all into the cooker and started crafting up a bunch of medical brews. On day 88, I decided to go out and get the last boss tribute I needed, being the Alpha Reaper bar. So I grabbed the cryo fridge and cryoed a boss megalo and flew out to one of the surface entrances. I went outside and did a quick circle around the whole place looking for an alpha, but I didn't find one here. So I went back inside to go to a different entrance. And while going over, I came across a purple drop that had a pretty good dire bear saddle in it. Anyhow, by this time, I arrived at the next entrance to the surface, and it was already on fire, so I've got to wait around.
You're gonna have to wait for the next night cycle.
Finally, once it cooled down, I went back outside and discovered something I had yet to see on Aberration.
Why is there a Facilo? What? I don't think you belong on this map, big man.
But once again, I didn't find an Alpha Reaper. Matter of fact, I couldn't even see normal Reapers. So I headed back inside and tried the third surface entrance. And when I was there, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it.
That's a drop! Whoa! There's a drop! That's a drop! What? There was no beam or nothing.
And I also came across a red one just below the obelisk.
Dude, it is almost day 89 and you're just now showing me drops.
This was great news. Even if the drops were late to arrive, I still wanted to grab as many as I could. I waited for 2 blue drops to land. Those didn't have anything crazy in them though, but I still got some really good upgrades to my armor. I then returned back to base to deposit all my stuff. And right after that, I went out to the blue zone surface entrance and I waited for it to cool off.
Oh, why can't I see? Oh, what is... Holy is orange.
Eventually the heat dissipated, so I went outside, but no reapers were inside at first. But I did come across a purple drop, so I waited for it to fall.
Oh my god. Why are you all around the drop? Holy reapers, man.
None of them were alpha, unfortunately, though. So I did a circle to lead most of the reapers away, and then I dove down and snatched everything in the drop. But still, since there were no alphas, I returned back inside.
That's a different entrance. I did not know those were connected.
But returning home is about all that happened on day 90, as I kinda just stood around pondering in my base for the rest of the day.
Well, I have pretty much everything except the nameless venom, which I'll get right before the boss, and the alpha reaper barb.
But I still had a lock on shells due to craft, so I grabbed ink again and went out to farm more flint and stone. And I got a pretty decent amount of it, so I returned back home and started converting it into spark powder. And once it was all made up, I grabbed whatever charcoal that I had in my forge, and I continued the gunpowder production.
It is 50% night. I might have to go scout that surface again.
So I did, but I had to wait for it to cool down once again. And while doing just that, this fella came by to say hi.
What? Where did you come from?
And he was not alone.
What? Why's the whole gang pulling up?
The surface looked safe to explore on day 92. So I ran out, and pretty close to the entrance, I finally spotted what I was looking for.
Oh my god. Alpha, come here. I'm just gonna lead it straight down that path. Dude, there's so many reapers. Oh, holy! Oh my god, it's so fast. Why is it so fast?
Once it fell right in, I went back to prevent the others from going in as well.
There's already enough reapers down there as is. Get out of the ground. Come this way.
And once they were far enough away, I glided back inside and got to leading all the small reapers away from the alpha. I got most of them off and then returned back to base to grab a couple more megalos to make the fight easier. I then flew back and placed down my generator and cryo fridge. I had to wait for cryo stickness between every throw, but I eventually got all 3 megalos out. I then made sure Blueberry was on passive before charging in at the alpha reaper.
Post up. Where y'all at?
But they seemed to be shy and preferred to stay underground.
Are they doing the thing where they don't come out of the ground? So the alpha should be right here.
So I waited for another night cycle, but when I checked again, they still weren't coming out of the ground, so I jumped back on Blueberry and went back up to the surface that was still filled with reapers. Finally, on day 93, the alpha grew a pair and decided to show itself.
Is that it? Yeah. Oh, it's like in the wall. Hello? What are you doing there?
I could still be bit, so I sent my megalos in and joined the fight as well. However, the other megalos weren't doing much of help as they were using the wrong attack and it was dealing basically no damage at all. But after enough biting, the Reaper gave in and turned to acid. And just like that, I had the Alpha Reaper barb secured. Oh, and I also got this Reaper helmet skin.
Oh my god, that looks goofy.
Anyways, I picked up my megalos, the cryo fridge, and the generator, and then returned back home where I threw out the megalos to heal.
Alright, well now that I have pretty much all the tributes, all I can really do is scout the surface to see if maybe I can get another good Megalo saddle, or who knows, maybe even a good shotgun.
So I went back to waiting at the surface entrance until it was cool enough to explore once again. I exited this part of the surface as it had no drops in sight and returned back home to craft more shotgun shells. I also had to make more cryopods so I could easily transport my Megalo army down to the boss terminal. But I was missing crystals, so I farmed some up with ink before grabbing the rest of the necessary resources, and I headed out to a drop to craft the cryopods before the end of the day. I wanted to go out to the surface again on day 95, but it was only 10% night, so I did some more shell crafting and yeeling killing.
Oh my, it's your problem.
And the yeeling made a fatal mistake when it decided to bite one of my boss megalos.
Oh, why are they on whatever?
Even the robot had something to say about it.
Shut up.
So for the time being, I tried to be as productive as possible. I went out to farm more tinto berries with Mr. Bear.
Get away from my base. Dude, this shotgun is so bad. Took 4 shots to kill level 40 Smino. I'm so cooked for this boss fight, chat.
But giving up is the last thing that was on my mind. So I kept up the medical brew grind and shotgun shell production. I also cryoed up all of my megalos to get them ready for transport. On day 96, I looked into the fabricator to check out another cool thing that came with Aberration, the goo gun.
Uses harvested carcasses to create corrosive or bouncy balls of goo. This thing does look sick. Is this just a reskin mining drill? Kinda looks like it.
It most definitely is, but I still wanted to try it, so I went outside and packed up a Spino and started collecting goo from its corpse.
Oh, gooped?
And we got a volunteer to try it out on as well.
Hey there. Oh, it's goop. I don't know what that did. It's not really doing any damage.
It seemed to be a bit pointless. I had no idea what it was good for, so I kinda just threw it into my smithy and left it there. Anyhow, I took Gold Star out for a spin to kill crafts for polymer, that I then used to craft 2 more primitive shotguns just in case. I mean, I'd probably be dead by the time that I would actually have to use another one, but it's better to have them than not. After that, I made more shotgun shells, and then I cryoed up Gold Star and grabbed my cryo fridge, the generator, and headed down to the boss terminal. This is because I wanted to throw out all my boss fighting megalos sooner rather than later, as they do take an eternity to wake up. So I put on my hazmat again and flew down over to the terminal, but I couldn't place any structures there.
What?
And it wasn't just the terminal. I went all the way back up to the entrance basically, and I still couldn't place it.
I did not know you can't build it all down here. This is quite clapped. Straight up, I don't know where I'm gonna place this.
So I kept going up farther and farther away from the bottom of the radiation, but I still couldn't place it anywhere. Day 97, I found a spot really far away.
Oh my god, I can place. Yeah, well, at least it's a safe area.
So I powered up the cryo contraption and waited for the cooldown, and then threw out all of my megalos. I marked down the spot on my map and then returned home just in time for it to be 90% night. So without hesitation, I jumped on Blueberry and went out to the surface again. The first drop was useless, and so was the second and third, unfortunately. And I didn't have enough time to see the fourth as morning came and the surface set on fire, so I had to wait for another cycle. Thankfully, when I came out again, 2 purple drops were there waiting for me.
2 purple drops.
But as you could have probably guessed, they were both garbage.
Bro, these drops are booty.
But then a red drop appeared which had some questionable stuff inside.
Bro, what? And I didn't even know an industrial preserving bin was a thing.
I then opened another useless blue drop before a purple drop with a ring and a yellow drop appeared. Neither of them had a shotgun though, but at least I got a better chest piece. And I got a pretty good compound bow that I was probably never gonna use. But on day 98, it finally happened. I opened a yellow drop and found this inside. Like a blessing from the Ark gods themselves, a 500 damage pump shotgun.
The comp bow must have been a sign. The good things were to come.
With that, I returned back to base and placed down my new preserving bin.
Oh, you can make jerky in this. Cool. This shotgun. Actual lifesaver. I might actually have a chance now.
I also placed down a stone cliff platform that I found in one of the drops to check it out. Sadly, it didn't have a steampunk skin variant though.
Alright, I need to go test out this shotgun, dude. Spino, hey there. Oh my god.
I can confirm the shotgun does indeed work. One last thing that I gotta bring into the boss fight was a bunch of armor sets, as I didn't really have a good set, so I'm gonna need a few replacements.
We need hide and fiber. I'm just gonna craft a ton of from flip flat sets.
I made 5 of each piece and grabbed all of it and made some final preparations like fixing my current set.
Going into this boss fight dripped out, dude.
I then grabbed all the artifacts and tributes and pondered in my base for the final time.
Alright, think I'm ready.
I picked up Chonketh, the most essential piece to the battle. I equipped my hazmat suit and made the last few shotgun shells and said my goodbyes.
Taking one last look at the base before I head out to fight Rockwell. Either way, it's the last time I'm gonna see it. It was a pleasure surviving with you, dinosaurs, and whatever you are. Anyway, let's go kill a Rockwell.
Once all the shotgun shells had finished crafting, I had over 1,000 or so. So I headed out to my megalo army that was now awake and ready. I leveled them up for the last time and then whistled everything and began going down to the boss terminal. But getting down there was a lengthy process that took the entirety of day 99. And it continued into day 100.
Alright, I think I'm finally getting close, dude. It is day 100. Gotta speed this up. I still gotta get nameless venom down here.
Soon enough, I had all of my megalos up on the terminal, and I checked to see if I had everything ready. After that, I headed out to get the final 20 nameless venom that I actually needed to start the fight. But my hazmat suit was on the verge of breaking as well, so I actually did have to go up and grab another set, as I didn't want to take the risk of dying right now. So I did climb back up to base, grab the other suit, and return to get the last few pieces of nameless venom that I needed.
One more. Finally, all the venom. Alright, well, I'm going into day 101, but whatever. I don't care, this is my video. Can't tell me what to do. Okay, it's time to lock in. I'm actually really nervous about this fight. You know, I'm pretty confident. I'm not very confident in my megalos, but I'm confident in my shotgun and my Drake. I haven't been winning too many boss fights lately, that's all I'll say.
But alas, there's only one way to find out and only one way to end this. So I started the alpha boss fight and got teleported in.
Okay, follow me. Come on, guys. Get down there.
I sent all of my teams down to the platform and started blasting Rockwell's tentacles.
Alright, shut up. Gotta kill the tentacles.
But even with my 500 plus damage shotgun, the tentacles weren't going down as fast as I thought they would.
I'm kind of burning through my shotgun bullets, I won't lie. Dude, and I got all these balls chasing me.
Pause, but not the boss fight. I shot the last tentacle and then whistled everything to attack the giant amalgamation that was Rockwell.
Oh my god, I'm low. Armor.
Then it was time for wave 2.
I'm locked in, dude. Shut up! I'm trying to kill you. Professional yapper over here. Oh my god, my Drake's actually taking damage.
I shot the last tentacle and again he went down. He got bit a few times but almost immediately got back up. And he emerged again, more powerful, with Nameless also joining the party. And my Drake was taking a lot more damage from the homing balls. I don't really know what else to call him.
I don't know what I just got hit from. My Drake is so low, dude. I'm so cooked.
I dropped all of his tentacles again and let my tames go ham, but my Drake was about to die and this was only the halfway point to the boss fight. And then, unfortunately, I got stunned off my Drake, which somehow resulted in Chonketh getting killed.
No! Pass it.
Chonk it! No!
Okay, I gotta get back to my Reaper. Or Ark Aberration to die. Oh no. No, not like this! I'm naked! No! No! Come on, I gotta get to my Reaper. No! No!
And even more unfortunate, I got caught lacking in a very bad situation and got slapped with Rockwell's, whatever he calls it, resulting in my death.
All that work, dude.
I'm rethinking my whole life right now. I've disappointed you guys once again. Perhaps I didn't make it to the end. Perhaps I died to the almighty Rockwell, a demigod of a yapper, but don't forget guys, I went into the alpha boss fight to prove to you guys that I am no beta, that I will go down fighting and I won't settle for less. But the Ark gods have different plans for me, or maybe my skill does. This might just all be a skill issue. Anyway, maybe I was never supposed to kill Rockwell. My true enemy was always hiding right around me, lurking in the shadows. You know what I'm talking about. Those pesky yeelings. They're always there to annoy me, and probably you as well. They are the true enemies. I hope you all enjoy this video. Even though I didn't get to kill and teabag Rockwell, I still got to kill and torture a ton of yeelings, which is what truly matters. Once again, thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Make sure to click my link in the description or pinned comment down below and download War Thunder today for PC, PlayStation, or Xbox and receive the Eagle of Valor pack, which contains vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account.